strongly in public speaking. Submit, attack this lap.
Check the flag, check the flag.
This is it.
Welcome to our worldwide adventure. This is Extreme E.
This journey has been tough.
One of the biggest accidents of the season!
But we fight for a reason. We stand together, united as one. Racing in the footsteps of giants.
It's absolutely full throttle, the car is dialed!
To leave a legacy worth fighting for. We are the first.
One more race and we will crown our Extreme E champions.
But we won't be the last. Our time is now.
From the desert to the ocean, the Arctic to the island, Extreme E has travelled the world. And now we're coming home to the Jurassic X Prix in Dorset, England, for the title decider.
Hello and welcome to the fifth and final round of Extreme E 2021. We are at the impressive Ministry of Defence base in Bovington, Dorset for the final showdown. I'm Andrew Coley and alongside me in the commentary box is Jenny Gow.
Now, with 3 wins to their name so far, RXR top the standings with a 16-point lead over X44. It's Rosberg versus Hamilton all over again. But before the racing gets underway, let's remind you of the all-important rules of engagement.
The world's finest drivers have joined brand new teams to compete in the Extreme E Championship. Each team will consist of 1 female and 1 male driver. The drivers will compete in X Prix across the globe, each highlighting a specific environmental issue. An Extreme E race consists of 3 laps, with the first driver completing 2 of those laps. Each team has a hyperdrive power boost they can activate on all 3 laps of the race. Expect strategy and tactics. Over the course of an X Prix, the quickest team through the Continental Traction Challenge collects a further 5 team championship points. Day 1 is qualifying and consists of 2 qualifying rounds. In each round, every team does 2 laps against the clock, with both drivers driving a lap each. In both rounds, there are qualifying points up for grabs, and this determines how they progress to Day 2 semi-finals and the crazy race. There are also championship points to be won, with the top team in qualifying bagging 12 vital points, down to the last place qualifying team, who will walk away with just 4. Day 2 starts with the semi-final, with the top 2 teams from each semi progressing to the final. The bottom 3 teams from Day 1's qualifying go head-to-head in the crazy race, the winner taking the last remaining place in the final. Grid play allows fans to vote for their favourite teams and drivers. The team that collects the most votes gets first grid position pick for the final. But there is a twist. The teams that do not reach the final can donate their votes to any other team, with the winners of the crazy race unable to receive any additional votes. The top 2 teams from the semi-finals and the winner of the crazy race will battle it out in the 5-car final. The team that crosses the line first wins the X Prix and claims 25 championship points, with the following teams collecting further points in descending order. All 5 X Prix count towards the team's championship, and in the Drivers' Championship, competitors can drop their worst X Prix result of the season. Who has what it takes to lift the trophy?
So now you know how it all works. Let's show you some of the best action from the first qualifying session. Now, this is a very different terrain from those we've seen so far this season, and a very different challenge in Dorset, with water, gravel, jumps and mud. A lot of mud.
So it was Abt Cupra who were out on track first of all. Matthias Ekstrom and Jutta Kleinsmith. They set a time which would be at the top of the leaderboard for a long time because a few of the other teams had just a little issue.
New pairing in Veloce with Lance Woolridge and Jamie Chadwick back from her W Series victories, a championship twice over now.
Good to see Chadwick back in the car. This was one of those issues we were talking about for Ollie Bennett coming up to flag number 5. Just got a little bit too tight on the inside, ran that down, got a penalty for that, and also got a penalty for speeding. Problems also for JBXE. You ride on board with Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski, who misses a gate at the bottom, comes up to the top of the hill, and yeah, I think that's the moment she realised she'd gone the wrong way. Also a speeding for penalty. So that was all helping out Cupra, but it wasn't going to go their way for the entire session because our championship front runners were still to come.
Yeah, just look at the speed that you can get on this 3.8 kilometre track. Christopherson and Taylor pairing up to once again show their pedigree. Remember, they lead the championship at the moment. They've got to perform well this weekend if they're going to take the inaugural championship away from this weekend.
Yeah, it's theirs to lose. Carlos Sainz on board now with the Matador. Watch this, the door goes up, just a little nonchalant glance to the left, reaches up, slams the door again, big handful of opposite lock, and just carries on pushing basically.
So relaxed. In that car. It's incredible to watch, isn't it? The sun did come out as well for qualifying 1. Let's see what qualifying 2 offers. An X44 as well. Gutierrez and Loeb, they did have a problem with their front inverter, and then they had a problem clattering into the board. This Loeb getting it a little bit wrong, but they still were able to set the fastest time of the day, so that's good for them. A good job. So let's hear from Sebastian Loeb on how he felt the track progressed throughout the session.
It was a good session for us. It was very close between the drivers, so we had to push really hard to try to be in the front. Finally, we achieved it, so we won Q1. That's the best start we could have. So now it's still the Super 6 sector to fight for. We'll see tomorrow morning. For sure, we will try to push again. And it's quite tricky. It's not easy. It's very slippery. The grip is changing in some places, so it's quite tough to keep the car straight and not to slide too much and to find a good compromise to set a good time. But at the end, the feeling with the car was really good, so I was able to push on the limit, and we achieved a good time. Grid position will be very important because it seems that everybody is going in the same line at the moment, so it's the only clean line of the grid. So we will see. We cannot do much more for that. We have to hope that the people will help us a little bit.
We've had some brilliant teams taking part in this year's championship for Extreme E, and of course a big surprise at the start of the year when it was announced that American manufacturer Hummer will be coming on board with one of those squads. Let's take a closer look.
Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing, with drivers Carl Leduc and Sarah Price headed into round 1 as serious title contenders. But it wasn't long before the All-American team's confidence took a considerable knock. A big crash in shakedown, followed by their car breaking down ahead of qualifying, mean they headed to the crazy race, where Carl Leduc put the finishing touches on a disastrous opening weekend.
No lifting! Oh, he hit her!
She stopped then! She stopped right in front of me!
In round 2, they were looking to bounce back and make a different kind of impact in Senegal, but an excellent Q1 performance from both Sarah Price and Kyle was followed by some devastating bad luck in Q2.
The car had stopped when they were 6.3 seconds up.
Again, they ended up in the crazy race. Despite an excellent drive from Sarah Price, Kyle took over in 3rd place. With most drivers struggling to overtake in Senegal, it wasn't looking good, but Kyle isn't like most drivers.
Commits over the bumps, absolutely full throttle, the car is dialed. Now he's going to chase down Sands, can he get the top spot here? Carl Leduc gets alongside, Leduc's going to shut the door, he does it!
Leduc and Price, who managed to win the shootout, and what a shootout it was! The Arctic was next up, and once again, excellent Q1 performances were followed by Q2 disasters. For the 3rd consecutive round, they headed to the crazy race. Sarah took the start and was battling hard, but just when the racing was heating up, the Arctic chill caught them out once again.
Broken steering, no way!
Their never-ending misfortune looked to continue in Sardinia, with Sarah grinding to a halt in Q1. But they battled hard, and after an excellent Q2, had clawed back a combined qualifying result of 5th, finally making it to the semi-finals. Lining up against X44 and Andretti United, a hard fight lay ahead of them. But shortly after the start, chaos ensued.
Christina Gutierrez is off! She's into the trees!
With the other two cars out, they cruised to victory and at last made it to the final. Leduc took the start and managed to narrowly secure the lead into the first gate, a lead he extended to a massive 45 seconds before handing over to Sarah.
No! Broken steering! This is unbelievable! No!
Their bad luck continues. They've been beset with it. Another catastrophic ending saw them finish in 4th place, narrowly missing out on a well-deserved podium. Can they finally end their streak of bad luck and finish on a justified high?
So let's take a look at the championship standings then. It's RXR leading the way. A 16-point gap between them and second place X44 in the battle for third.
We've got just one qualifying session left to go here in 2021. Here in the UK, round 5. Who's going to take the top qualifier spot, and can X44 steal the extra 5 points for the Continental Traction Challenge? Time for qualifying round 2, the final qualifying round of the 2021 season. Dorset looking a little bit grey, Jenny. I think we did see the sun just a short while yesterday. It's muddy out there. This one, of course, counts as much as yesterday's session does as well.
Yeah, worth noting, changing...
Attention all teams. Qualifying round 2 for the Jurassic X Prix is about to begin.
Scott Elkins there, our race director in the command centre, telling us we're about to get racing. And just to remind you, as I was about to say, 2 laps from driver number 1 and then 1 lap from the second driver who gets in there. So let's see what we can do when we get qualifying underway.
Yeah, both sessions count, remember, so your result from qualifying 1 and your result from qualifying 2 is what gives you your overall qualifying position. 1, 5 and 6 go through to semi-1, 2, 3 and 4 go through to semi-2, and the bottom 3 cars go through to the crazy race. 5 cars in the final, so it's 2 from each semi and 1 from the crazy race. So obviously your odds are better if you make it into that top 6.
Just look how cut up it is down there, the mud just waiting to grip onto your car and not let you get this start nailed.
Look at the difference left to right, Jenny. It's also left of the car, so to the right of you, to look how wet and boggy it is. If that's your start slot, so I think grid play could come into consideration here too. I think that's why the grid's going to be a nightmare. Everybody has started qualifying, you know, to the left of where the car is now.
Yeah, we had
Kleinschmidt off for a double lap.
We had Sebastian Lowe, didn't we, saying he thought that grid play was going to come into action as well. So you're absolutely right. But Kleinschmidt on her way.
It'll be fascinating to see how that goes, of course, because really grid play is Hamilton versus Rosberg. Let's be honest, they've been right up at the top, haven't they, along with JBXE. They've been right up at the top. Our F1 stars have got a great following. And in terms of the championship fight, as they just picking that grid slot, we just don't know how important it's going to be until we start seeing multiple cars on track.
Interesting, Kleinschmidt has some notes written on the dash today. She struggled with the start last time out for the last X Prix. So I wonder if she's just reminding herself of the buttons, the sequence. Remember, she was the championship driver coming into this championship that got elevated up to the Apt Cupra team. They wanted her as a race driver.
She's gone the wrong way.
She is. Oh.
She's gone the wrong way. She's gone the wrong way immediately. She's missed a waypoint. She went left, waypoint 4. Hand up in the air. I don't know if that was to try and shut the pit.
Wow, she's missed a lot of that, so she rejoins at 10, so race direction will have to look at that. The stewards will take a ruling, but so frustrating for Jutta to just miss the flags, to lose her way on this track. Remember, the drivers haven't had a huge amount of time to get used to it. They did their free practice, they did qualifying 1, this qualifying 2.
Where did she go off? Was it number 4?
We're going to have to get someone to have a look back at that, because I wasn't looking at the screen at the time, but really unfortunate for Jutta. She's now going to have to try and claw back time. She's got 2 laps of this to do, so she's got to get it right next time. Crucial.
The thing is, it's such a shame for them, isn't it? It was a good result yesterday. They're up in P4, and to know Oh, it destroys your confidence, Jenny, because she's in the car now, and now she knows, oh, I've made a mistake already, so she knows that some of the good work is undone. Just psychologically, it's not good, and now she's actually got a long way on the run to go. You know, she's got 3/4 of her run left after that mistake. I think it's probably an indicator as well of what the view is like from inside the car. You know, we saw it at the last second. She looked right. She would have known she'd made the mistake the second she went straight on, but yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, I wonder if the team can just, you know, have a little word with her, try and rebuild her confidence. She comes up towards the twins, so this will be the first indication of their time on lap 1 as they come up across. You can just see them going through what would be the start-finish area, so she'll go into the different direction to be able to take another lap of this, and you can see there, paddock area, command center laid out for you. That gives you a really good idea of the layout of this track.
Yeah, that corner, Jenny, is somewhere where I think we could potentially see a pass. We haven't seen a lot of it because we don't see it every lap. You only see it once in the run. So there are 3 laps, but they only go through that right-hander on top of the hill to rejoin between lap 1 and lap 2. Just looking at it from the drone there, I think it's quite wide, and I wonder if the teams are across it, if there might be a move on up there.
Oh, the teams will be across
Yeah,
it. Just to let you know, message from the stewards, they're investigating a missed waypoint, the flag at 9.
Okay, so when did she rejoin?
She joined just before 10, so she might have just only missed 1, which means that would be a 5-second penalty, I believe. So let's wait and hear. We'll find out. But and any time that she made up as well, which would be added on top. But I'm not sure it was a better journey.
No, exactly. So it's basically if it was a wrong route.
So it's coming up here.
It took more time. Maybe we'll see it from the drone here. So where did
That's
she go
8.
straight on?
So she came round this corner.
So it's a long corner.
Look, you can see the tracks where she went. She went straight to our left, if you look at it that way, maybe, through that big puddle, rejoined, and then came back on. So we know where she went. You can actually see the track marks on the screen.
But it's the important point is it's not faster. So I think it's a pretty simple penalty, isn't it? It missed waypoint 5 seconds. I don't think they'll add anything onto it. Compared to if it was a shortcut, they could be pretty harsh on her. But it won't have helped her exit speed either because the corner was tighter than the corner she would have been in. So everything about it doesn't help her lap time.
So Matthias knows what he's going to have to do. When they do the switch, he's going to have an exceptionally clean lap, and he's going to have to try and find out their 5 seconds. Hyperdrive, remember they've still got that 4 seconds of that extra push power when they press the button, available to them once every lap. And as if by magic, Jutta just shows us what it's like to use that. The car comes a little bit unstable, actually, when she presses that hyperdrive button.
That's just an indicator of how much extra power it is. It's a 400 kilowatt boost for 4 seconds, smaller jump on second lap for Jutta. And as that power comes in, because electric power has so much torque, it's so instantaneous, you get a certain element of wheel spin, the rear end of the car sits down a little bit, and the attitude of it changes on the track. So it's about when you bring it in and you know, can you use all of it for the 4 seconds? But I think we've seen 3 or 4 different locations, haven't we?
Yeah, and I just have to say, looking at this section now, from qualifying 1 to qualifying 2, it looks so bumpy and aggressive now. That's quite a different characteristic.
Jutta was further over to her left than I think we've seen other cars. And it may be that they've looked at that because, Jenny, they see it as an overtaking opportunity, and it's one of those things where without the data you're not going to know. So they may have said to her on lap 2, can you go left and check it? On the other hand, could just have been a little mistake. So
going towards the switch zone now, 30 kilometers an hour. There's a little button that they press, but let's have another look at where it went wrong for Jutta. So you can see she's coming around this very hard corner, trying to get as much flow as she can, but then she peels off to the left and almost goes straight on for her. Realizes her mistake as she comes up to the car park and sees a car through a very, very large puddle. And luckily for her, only misses the 1 waypoint.
Yeah, she actually took the second route, not the first one. I thought she'd gone up the first one when we saw the drone shots initially. So this is her off to the left-hand side. It's reminiscent of Chris Meek, nearly. Well, he did end up in the car park in WRC. I think it was in Mexico. Went right off the radio whilst leading. Yeah, into the car park with his co-driver. And yeah, I think it was Mexico. I can't remember.
On a long lap like a rally, it probably isn't quite as fundamentally problematic as on a 5-minute lap.
It was pretty problematic when he thought he was going to lose the win on the final stage. But yeah, it was one of those moments. But it's gutting as a driver because it's you know, Jutta she'll just be really disappointed. You know what they're like, Jenny. We've spoken to them when they know they've had an issue. They really beat themselves up.
Just like you and I.
Yeah.
Switch done, completed. Kleinschmidt out the car. Matthias Ekstrom back in the car. We now know what they've got to do. They've got to absolutely gun it. You can see there the handbrake being deployed. Lots of people watching on as well in our lovely hospitality area. And Kleinschmidt, understandably, frustrated with herself for a mistake that's been very costly for them.
It has indeed. We'll get an idea, of course, at the end of this run, roughly what the difference is between today and yesterday for this team, although there is a definite 5 seconds, and she's lost physically on track. Yeah, she's gutted, isn't she?
Yeah.
You can just see from the body language the disappointment.
I've just had a message from one of the guys down at the site saying you'd be really gutted if you came back and found your car caked in mud because you'd have Kleinschmidt soaked it as she was going past.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a hard
Right
line.
through that deep puddle, wasn't it? So this is turn 2. Ekstrom comes up to now, chucks the car into the right and then onto the throttle pedal and away down one of the straights. Going to be really interesting to see what happens when we go racing here. So this is one of the places where people have been using hyperdrive. I definitely think you could use hyperdrive there to try and get alongside somebody. It is going to be bumpier and slipperier, Jenny, on the inside line.
Yeah.
Trying to identify those spots, aren't we? We think as well the run up to the jump. This is where Jutta went straight on.
Pressure really on Ekstrom now, isn't it, to just try and claw back as much time as possible. And he'll go for it here. This is 10, so this is the smaller bump that goes into the ditch. And this was where there was a lot of standing water yesterday, and you could really get bogged down in the car, and it looks actually a little bit drier today.
That's what I was just going to say the same thing, Jenny. I think some of it will have been dispersed by the cars heading over it yesterday. There hasn't been any rain, so of course ambient temperatures are low, but there is a certain element of drying every time. There's a reasonable temperature and a bit of wind. I wonder about Jutta. I was looking at the road where she went off. Is definitely a point at which some of the service vehicles, that are looking after things on the tracks are entering and exiting the track. So when you're on track, you're looking for tyre tracks. Ekstrom uses his hyperdrive down this long straight. You see the difference. Narrow jump on the brakes, just squash it before the crest. You see the front suspension go down, lands it on the crest and down the other side. So yeah, maybe Jenny, she just spotted tyre tracks heading left, which would have been from service vehicles, and has been distracted by it.
Wonder if they'll put a chevron out there or something just to make sure nobody else does it. Yeah, just to be doubly sure, because now, of course, you've got even more tyre tracks down there from where Jutta went down there.
Yeah.
So look at it, it's so bumpy. That bit, it's reminiscent of being in Greenland, isn't it, with the amount of gravel and bumps going around?
I think Jutta was too far over to the left. I might be wrong, but I think certainly if it was an investigation into an alternate line, I don't think it's one that works.
So here it is, Ekstrom comes up towards the finishing line. What time are they going to post? The first time of qualifying 2. They've done well in the traction challenge, actually. They've taken away the time, but they have a time of 9:29.366. We're in the command centre, and our second team is about to take to the track. It is Veloce Racing. Now, a reminder, we have a new team pairing. Lance Woolridge, he's the man to the right of your screen, funnily enough, in the race overalls. And Jamie Chadwick returns from having won her second world title with W Series, and she's back in the car. She will take the first 2 laps, and then it'll be Woolridge getting in for the final lap. Jamie all focused, looking at the right-hand side, waiting for the green light to come on, which means she can start. White light at the moment, and it turns green, and she is off. It is qualifying 2, a little bit of wheel spin there, digging in, and a really difficult start for Chadwick, but she is going to see what she can do around this 3.85-kilometre track with the mud caking the car already.
On board with Chadwick on the run up to the first corner, that tight left-hander there you can see from the drone. There's in a little run up to the turn 2 right-hander where Ollie Bennett knocked the flag down yesterday. Exit from that long straight. Wipers on. I don't think it's quite as wet as it was yesterday. You see Chadwick coming through a puddle as I say that, but down this straight certainly less splashing than there was yesterday.
Yes,
that might help visibility when we go racing. If it continues, you said, Jenny, yesterday, the forecast shows no rain, and maybe with the cars running over today, we won't see quite such bad visibility, but that might be wishful thinking looking at some of the puddles.
Yeah, most unusual not to have rain when it comes to this part of the world. My parents live just down the road, so I know that. So you can see Chadwick not getting caught up with going down that wrong route and just coming up to the top of 10, which is the ditch section. Let's see how she negotiates the puddles here. Yeah, so much drier than we saw in qualifying 1. Great.
Yeah, quicker, obviously, than Jutta Kleinschmidt. Of course, Kleinschmidt, don't forget, had that problem where she went the wrong way. So that's going to cost you time.
Hyperdrive.
As well as the penalty, which they'll put on afterwards. Hyperdrive, yeah, 8.2 seconds up at the moment. We'll try and get a comparison as well, obviously, if they get a clean run. So, yeah, Ekstrom, they have had a 5-second penalty, car 125. So their time actually was around a 9:30. And looking at them yesterday, it was a 9:24. So they went about 5 seconds slower than they went yesterday. Intriguing to see, you know, the other teams do the same. Chadwick hanging onto the car on the brakes up towards the knife edge jump.
She didn't quite have that wheel straight when she went over that jump. How costly could that have been? Because you want a car as stable as possible, don't you?
I think it was more that, yeah, the braking zone, she was hanging onto it a bit. So you jump on, you know, jump on the brakes, if one of the rears locks and the car goes a bit sideways, you can end up wrestling that a long way down the braking zone. So probably more that she was still just getting the car straight as she hit the crest. But it shouldn't have lost too much time. I think Jutta Kleinschmidt was off to the left here.
Yeah.
You see there the big ruts and the big puddle. Definitely that middle line is better. And then there's the alternate lines up the twins. But for me, the only one that works is the middle one, Jenny. I'll be surprised to see anyone take the other one unless they're following a car with an issue, you know, with a puncture or something.
Yeah, I think the race could be a little bit different because you might look for just doing something different from everybody else. But in qualifying conditions, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Chadwick onto lap 2 of her run. Takes the right-hander, which drops them onto the start-finish straight. This is that area which we're so keen to see what's going to happen later on, coming down the line. I don't think the cars are having quite as much pace pulled out of them by the wet there again, Jenny, as we saw yesterday. Yeah, we're talking, when we say the track's drying, it's a bit vague, isn't it? You still are very much going to need your welly boots.
Yeah, but it does look different today, doesn't it? You can see it looks a bit looser, it's a bit more gravelly. You can see just from this shot the stones lying around. Actually, one of our drones was taken out yesterday by a high-flying stone that got a direct hit to it. I bet they couldn't do that again today if they tried. It
was Christopherson, wasn't it? I think with the stone flung up, taking the drone out. But yeah, you can see, and Jenny, this is one of the things we've spoken about several times this year about reading the road, looking at the surface, how does it look? Yesterday we spoke about the slime, so there's still a lot of slime on the outside there as Chadwick goes through, but then you look at the gravel, watch the exit, and you'll see, you know, that it's drier where that slime coat has been taken off and where the road's been eaten into a little bit. You've got a slightly drier surface.
Svensson Cook, one of the men behind Veloce, just watching on. Remember, this was an e-sport team that decided actually they wanted to go racing, and they're doing a really good job of it. One of Jamie Chadwick's biggest supporters, and she is rocking the world of motorsports by influencing many, many people to have a go. They want to get interested because of what Jamie is doing, and she's using a hyperdrive right now with good effect.
Yeah, using her hyperdrive now and using her profile with good effect as well, Jenny. It's interesting what you said to me. You know, she's still quite early in her own career, and yet she's already using her profile to try and help other women take part in the sport, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. For Jamie, important responsibility on her, but she's out there, and I think she loves this championship. She's having fun out there.
I suspect she'll be particularly enjoying this event, and that's because W Series is done. You know, she's won the W Series, so she comes here now. It's the final round of the season. Yeah, they're not in the championship fight. They'd love to get a great result. Jamie has said herself, hasn't she, I believe, to you about skill sets and stuff, that you can learn things from this series, which are not not the same in single seaters. I've said loads of time, race drivers should go and do some loose surface driving, some ice driving, and just try and get the feel round it. She puts it on the nose. That's another lesson for her. That's that left-hand line that Jutta Kleinschmidt took as well. For me, it's too risky. There's not enough reward on that line.
Wow, this Veloce car has just been like an absolute beast. Every time someone gets in it, you fear what's going to happen. We had a huge shunt last time out for Sarazan. He's not here this weekend, but Jamie will come into the switch zone, and she's done a really good job. Look, 9 seconds is the difference between her timing and the timing that we saw for Jutta Kleinschmidt. Now, we know Jutta had that issue, but watch this again. Look how much she gets on the front.
That was within an ace of the front guard digging in, but you do that in a single-seater and you're definitely going in for a new front aero, put it that way. So that's going to be something new for Jamie. But I don't know, you know, you finish a run like this, there's an element of, wow, I got away with it, and then there's an element of telling everyone later on, oh my God, do you see how high I got the rear in the air? It's like the big jumps, isn't it? At first you're disappointed you got it wrong, and then you look at the photo and you go, it's a cool photo.
Now just have a little look at the ground underneath, because yesterday they were coming out absolutely caked in mud. Today the tractor's been over it. You can see there's big big wedges in there, but actually looks a little bit drier. Woolridge, this is his first switch for him getting into the car in a live session. So there's a lot to take and process, isn't there, when you're the driver getting in rather than out?
That shot we just saw, actually, Veloce have got like a green light held up in front of them in the switch zone. Where Chadwick is standing now, they've got some sort of a light or a device which is maybe to tell Lance when he can go. Do you see it on the right?
Yeah, very nice.
I think that's late. I'm not convinced that was perfect. There were 9 seconds up coming in, and unless he's looked up and gone at exactly the right moment. They're not allowed to go, remember, until their communications lead is plugged in as well. So we'll get an idea on whether or not they've lost time, but first of all, we can hear from Jamie Chadwick.
Jamie, 9 seconds up. You did so well to control the car there. It was bucking all over the place towards the twins. How tricky are the conditions in Q2 compared to Q1?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the track's certainly changed quite a lot since yesterday, so quite a lot more ruts in the track. So, yeah, caught me out a couple of times, but yeah, just happy to hand the car over to Lance, so hopefully he can do the job now.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, there's a wry smile on her face there, isn't there? That is that mixture of relief and enjoyment. There's something awesome about you know, this kind of motorsport where you're at all sorts of crazy angles that you just don't get with circuit racing. I love circuit racing, I really do. But you know, I'm a rally kind of off-road guy at heart.
Are you?
And, yeah, and
I see.
I love seeing circuit racers come across and do it and have that smile on their face. You know, the full send smile. You know.
Yeah.
She's done well. She said she's relieved to hand it over to Lance. It doesn't look like they lost time either, Jenny. It was like 9 seconds there or thereabouts, and it still is now. So.
Oh, listen to the squeal of that car as Lance Woolridge puts it through its paces. 31-year-old from South Africa. He is very much across this whole arena. Cross-country series. He's done plenty of rallying. A real diamond that they found. And he didn't get the seat at the beginning of the season, but this is his opportunity now to try and impress the guys at Veloce and see if he can steal a seat away from Stefan Saraza.
Yeah, he was a little bit hesitant coming off the left-hander there into the muddy section, just waited. It is hard for them to see, and he waited and lost around a second on the exit, although the exit now does look like there's a bit more traction. Hyperdrive then into the Continental traction challenge section, which we've seen a lot of drivers using, and he runs the car right out to the left-hand side. Look, he's hunting for grip over there as well. I'm impressed by him, I have to say. I think he looks like he's very much got the car by the scruff of the neck. You know, he looks like he is fully in control of it, not the other way round. Yeah,
just looking at how little air he took over that, I think that could be the preferred way of dealing with that big old jump. The knife edge, I think it's about 5 meters high, and it's a real challenge for the drivers, and there's differing views about how best to take it.
I think in terms of lap time, the short jump is definitely the right way to do it, but I think in terms of making a pass, it might be the one place where you risk the car to out-jump somebody else. You know, you brake a little bit later. We saw it in Greenland, where we were seeing people take risks over the jumps, if you remember, to try and make a pass. And touch wood, so far, the car's been brilliant here this weekend. They've made some modifications to the steering, and we've had really good reliability considering the rough conditions.
Well, next up, it is the Excite Energy Racing team. Ollie Bennett in the command centre. There he is, local lad, just from Bristol. So he's kind of across this, and this will maybe be the closest he races to home for years. It's nice for him to be able to do that, but in the car right now, it's Christine GZ. She is ready to go. You can see her, just saying a few words to herself before she gets going. Maybe a little mantra that she has. She'll be watching out for the green light, and as soon as she gets it, she'll hope the car doesn't dig in too much. Let's watch the start. Away pretty nicely for her, nice and clean, but the car, there's so many points in there off the start where the car can dig in.
That funnel for me, Jenny, it's so close to the start line. I think 3 cars, when we're talking semi-finals and a crazy race, will be interesting enough, but 5 is, if there isn't contact, I'll be staggered.
Very scary time, isn't it?
You've got to get there first. I mean, it may be a really obvious, easy start for somebody who gets good traction. We think the right-hand side of the grid's super slippery, don't we? So imagine there are 5 cars on there, or the 3, 2 in the case of the 5-car race, and 1 in the case of the 3-car race, are going to be out in that slime.
Can you use your hyperdrive there? It's too difficult, there's not enough traction.
That's exactly right, exactly the point. So if you've got good traction, it might be a great place to use it, but I think not. I think there's just not enough to do it. When we've seen it off the start, if you remember, it's been at the early events where we had those really long start-finish straights, like it was a kilometre, wasn't it, to turn 1, maybe more. I think there are later places in the lap where you might want to use that to...
Nobody's tried it yet. We've not seen anybody doing a hyperdrive off the line. I think it's too much information to give to other teams for a start, but I also think, yeah, maybe it's not the place in this round to do it, and you want to maybe use it to try and pass slightly later on. And I think actually visibility is going to definitely have been improving throughout the course of the day. In the final tomorrow, I think that's a positive, because it means we'll get close racing. You can follow, you can tuck yourself in behind the car in front, and then, you know, deploy some good strategy and tactics to try and get around them.
See GZ running the car all the way across the left-hand side of the road, just putting the wheels up. She gets a bit sideways on the brakes, but she'll get that stop nicely. Hey. Oh, it's quite big again. She did that yesterday, but she lands it well. She jumps the car well, and she doesn't look remotely uncomfortable with it either. Yeah,
I think that's their plan. I think that's how they want to address that. That's how they want to tackle that part of the section, the knife edge, and it's working for them, so why not? Look at the time.
Well, they're going quicker at the minute than Veloce, so that, you know, this is a really impressive drive. Let's not forget Chadwick is, you know, double W Series champion. She needs to stay off that left-hand line. So I wonder if something to do with the traction is dragging the cars that way, because that's where Chadwick had that big moment. Let's see if it's made any difference. Actually, she loses time on that section, so despite, of course, it was Chadwick's second lap that the rear end of the car kicked up.
Oh,
right. Out the top of the twins. She's going to come around and split off to the right-hand side, so to the finish line now. But that's that huge puddle, which I think is going to remain all weekend. But first lap done for Christine GZ.
Second lap then for the Excite Energy team. Ollie Bennett in the command centre looking on, but it's GZ out there at the moment and doing a really decent lap. So far, she is the fastest of the drivers out there, gaining momentum all the time. And you can see the windscreen wipers on all the time at the moment, but actually, probably don't need it for half the lap.
I think, if you remember last time, a couple of teams had issues with wipers, and some of them said we're leaving them on all the while. And they were even, some of the teams were coming up with some crazy conspiracy theories about whether or not wipers were linked to other electrical faults in the car, but of course they're still trying to learn stuff about them. So for me, yesterday, Jenny, we saw Katie Mullins. Remember her fumbling on the steering wheel? She was looking for her wiper button, her wiper, or certainly her wash button.
Yeah.
So it's one less thing to look for. You might as well leave it on for the whole run, particularly when it's bumpy and mucky like this. If you haven't got them on and the muck comes onto the screen, you've got to find the button. You could lose a couple of seconds straight away.
Just looking down at Christine GZ there, she didn't look 100% committed around that very long right-hander.
Lots of people have almost, it looks to me like they're all glancing at where Jutta Kleinschmidt went off. I wonder if there was a chevron board in there yesterday, sending them to the right, or if there's just so many tyre tracks now going straight on that it is a distraction. You're coming around the corner thinking, which way does it go here? They should know, really, it's a very, very long right-hander, but it's the other thing is it does look wet still in that corner, and in terms of commitment, it's one of those places where you're going pretty quickly, and if you get it wrong, you are going to stick it off into the bushes, at which point, you know, it's going to be run over.
Oh, a little bit sideways there for Christine as she comes around this section. This is the Continental Traction Challenge section. All the teams seem to go out this morning thinking the conditions are the best that they're going to be, so they're trying their hardest. You can just see Christine wringing the neck of this car out there. She wants to set a really good time in this sector.
Let's not forget that we're coming up for Extreme E silly season. We know some drivers have been signed up already for next year. We're not sure about the vast majority of crews and teams as to who's coming back. Yeah, we know we've got a new squad coming in with McLaren, we've got Tanner Fountain, Emma Gilmore, but we don't know which teams are going to stay. And let's be honest, you know, some of them might not come back for season 2, in which case drivers, even if the teams all do come back, if I were one of the quick drivers in this series, I would be on the phone, you know, sending the cheeky WhatsApps to them, trying to figure out just who might be wanting to take me on. And I have to say, a performance like this from Christine GZ puts her higher up the list in terms of who might want to take her on, Jenny. This is really fast. She's gone 3.2 seconds quicker than Chadwick went on those first 2 laps. That's an impressive performance by Christine GZ.
Yeah, we've seen her improve at every single event. She's been one of the greater approvers of this, and it's impressive to see.
Don't forget Jutta Kleinschmidt's been in the car as well. Jutta's been in with Abt. Now, I know that she made that mistake and lost a few seconds, but this would still be very much in touch with the Dakar legend. So Christine GZ, over the last couple of events, has really impressed me with her pace and her talent behind the wheel. Jensen Button said that to us, didn't he? No, he said about Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski that the improvement through the season has been impressive, incredible even.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're a team manager now, you're looking on, aren't you, and thinking, who do I want for next year?
Yeah, so switch zone. Ollie Bennett will get in the car. Christine GZ done a cracking job out there. The super sector time, or as it's now called, the traction challenge time, wasn't as impressive. She'll have hoped to have got a little bit faster. Let's see how that develops, because there's 5 points at play if you can get the fastest time in sector 3, which is that traction challenge area. But Ollie just getting himself buckled in. Oh, there she is. She looks happy with herself, and so she should be.
This is a clunky changeover, Jenny. Ollie hasn't got the belts up over the top of the Hans device at the moment. He needs to get it up over the top right-hand side of his Hans device. And they've got plenty of time. Door's shut. Now he has. That right-hand belt wasn't. And that's one of the things where Christine's just a little bit more petite than Ollie is. And so he has to loosen the belts off. And I know when you had your passenger ride the other day, you said that the belts aren't very easy to do.
Oh, so hard.
Yeah, but brilliant drive by Christine GZ. And she's down in the changeover zone now.
Christina, you've just handed the car with a 3.2-second lead to Ollie. It looked great. How did it feel?
Not that great. No, it's pretty gnarly, the track, and it's getting like more bumpy. But I don't know. Let's see how the others do now. We can't get too excited.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Pretty gnarly. We love a bit of gnarly here in the commentary box. I can understand if you're the one out there driving, then that's a little bit more aggressive. And I know that some of the drivers do really get thrown around in this car, and there's not a lot you can do. You really want to stabilise your head as much as possible, but when you're going over these gnarly bits, that's not quite as easy to do. Hyperdrive on for Bennett.
Slightly later than some of the drivers have been using it, just wait until the car was a little bit more straight, but he's in touch at the moment. They're a couple of seconds down. You want to hold on as much as possible to the relative pace, of course, of Ekstrom and Woolridge, who've gone before. There's that long right-hander, Jenny. Let's see if we can spot on the exit if there's something which the drivers are being put off by.
Not allowed.
No, we're not going to see that this time. Into the Continental Traction Challenge, you'll go up over the hump and into that wet section. This is where it's so hard for the drivers to see left, because they're looking literally at the sky as they come over the crest. Look at the dry line through. If you're not in that dry line, you are going to lose a ton of time.
Yeah, so much easier to navigate through than in qualifying one. So that's a good job. One of the photographers getting a nice shot there of the Xlite Energy team as they come down. Now, this is the fast, straight section where they can put in as much pressure as they want, full throttle, but then you've got to be aware that you're coming up to the knife edge. 5.4-meter drop, 25-degree angle to it, and one of the crucial parts of getting this Continental Traction Challenge absolutely nailed.
Bennett coming up to the jump now. Watch for when he hits the brakes. Car just hopping over in that middle line. The middle line looks a bit better to me, and then in terms of brakes, just lands the car on top of the crest. Could go slightly bigger than that if they wanted to.
They need to find the middle ground between Christine GZ and Ollie Bennett. I think one of them's going too far and one of them's not going quite far enough.
Yeah, Christine was certainly in full send mode over the jump, wasn't she? Drone following Ollie, I love that. You could actually see the drone in the previous shot, and we just get such brilliant angles. There are those bumps on the left again from the drone. The drone actually really shows you why you need to be in the middle of the road, and unfortunately I do think that's limiting this as an overtaking opportunity. Looking at it, if you imagine trying to go offline, it's going to be tricky.
So Bennett comes towards the finishing line to the left through the big puddle. He can see the end in sight. They're currently third at the moment, lost a little bit of time, but a nice safe drive. Oh, almost safe drive for Ollie Bennett. So the track out there looking pretty good today for the second qualifying session. And Abt Cupra were the first team out there. It was Kleinschmidt, it was Ekstrom, and it was Air going over this big 5.4-meter high knife edge jump.
Yeah, Kleinschmidt had the nose of the car really high there. You can see the difference between the different attitudes in flight. There it is. So this is a slightly shorter jump. That might have been Ekstrom on lap 2 or lap 3, sorry, or Kleinschmidt on her second lap. You want to just get over that second hump and land the car coming down the hill. And obviously, if you can land it all four wheels, that helps all of the dampers take some of the impact from the car. That's Ekstrom, actually, because I remember he came up slightly short on his run. So, yeah, down the other side and then back onto the throttle pedal straight away.
Just shows how good the cars have to be to absorb all of that. So onward with Veloce, Chadwick and Woolridge, and you can just see the different styles, can't you? The different way they do it. You can see our drone as well, just taking those shots. It's
yeah,
great.
It's really, really nice. Both times they're just landing just after the down ramp and then again over the top. So that's, yeah, for Veloce, actually, it was 3, I'd say, bang-on jumps on their run. It's like a corner.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it looks pretty impressive from all of them. Remember, Woolridge having his first weekend in an Extreme E car, so a lot for him to learn. And this, well, we'll give them style marks out of 10 for Jamie Chadwick. Look at the moment where she almost loses it because the car pretty much does a handstand. There we go.
Yeah,
lovely.
This is what I mean when I say like a corner. The tracks are 3-dimensional, so it's not just which direction does it go in. It's the up and down of the terrain. You've got to judge your speed in exactly the same way you judge your entry speed to a corner. You've got to judge your entry speed to the jump and your exit speed from your corners, all regarding the terrain as well. So this, I think, is Christine Cheesy with another mega jump over the top. So she's certainly enjoying herself, and that's not wrong. It's just different. But
what would you do? Like, literally, what would you do? Because if I was in it, I'd put my foot down and I'd go, whee!
I'd look at what Sebastian Loeb does, try desperately hard to copy him and fail, which is fine, you know, but you just have to look at who's quickest. So for me, if you look at who's quickest, X44 and RXR are, so I'd be looking at what they're doing compared to what I'm doing and seeing, okay, where can we make up some of that time?
I mean, X44 clattered into the cladding on the left-hand side of it, so I think actually everybody's got more time to find today, which is really exciting.
Well, it is because it's in the Continental Traction Challenge, Jenny, so it's absolutely crucial. This could be what decides the championship. This one sector on the track is worth 5 points in every single run. Imagine if we get to the final and there's just 5 points in it. It could come down to the very last laps of the season.
Love
when I think we'll see, yeah, we're going to see Christopherson and Loeb behind the wheel. Could that be the fight for the title?
Time to head to the command centre once again, and it's the JBXE team taking to the track next. Jensen Button there in his little woolly hat with a bobble on top, and the team ready to go. Give us a wave, Jensen. There we go. As if on command. Beautifully done. Kevin Hansen will be the second driver to take to the wheel, but first up it'll be Katie Munnings. No, it will not be Katie Munnings. Of course, it will be.
Hansen, yeah.
I know. I did that again. Kevin Hansen and Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski. My apologies to the team.
So yesterday, tricky day for them, wasn't it? They ended up down in P8 after they were penalised for, I think, Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski drove through the branding at the top of the twins because she obviously thought it was triplets and went up the third chute. Fair enough, easy mistake to make. And don't forget to say, yesterday they only had one run on this track. You must remember with Extreme, they only get one run in 3 practice round it before they go properly racing on it. So mistake there, and then was it speeding in the pit lane, Jenny?
No, that was the other team. That was Excite. But yeah, so they got the 7-second penalty for missing gate 16, 5 seconds, plus the 2 seconds that they thought the advantage gave them. So that's the penalty that they had today. But Arlen-Kotlinski saying that she is feeling very comfortable behind the wheel of that car at the moment. Jensen Button watching on, and you can be guaranteed he will be giving them as much advice and help as he possibly can. Remember, he's now an advisor for Williams' F1 team. So you can soak up a lot of information from someone who's won championships in the past, even if it's not in this discipline.
He's a Formula One world champion. The pressure which comes at that level is absolutely immense. And yeah, let's not look away from the fact that Kevin Hansen competes in a world championship right at the very highest level. He said the second he signed for the team that he was so excited to be working with Jensen Button. I think it's the same thing that Loeb Gutierrez had with Hamilton, and likewise, with the Rosberg squad, you're looking at someone who's been in that ultra pressure position of the pressure cooker of Formula One. You can definitely learn things from that. On board now with Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski, who Jensen Button said yesterday he's been so impressed with her improvement through the course of the season, and she comes here with an enormous amount now, I think, of confidence. You saw her reach down with a hyperdrive there. You see, they're trying to find that button on the wheel when you're in the middle of an obstacle moment.
Yeah, there's only 4 buttons. Let's see how she takes that jump very nicely. And there's only 4 buttons on the wheel, so you've just got to locate it, because obviously the wheel isn't ever going to be in the same place twice. It's going to be moving around, so you've got to locate it. But oh, that's a lovely angle as well. Gives you a real idea of the speed that they're taking through this track.
I wonder if the teams might consider moving those buttons, because both the wiper button and the hyperdrive button seem to be at the bottom of the wheel. Now, I don't know, I've not seen the wheels up close to be able to see if the teams are doing anything different. But if you remember, Katie Munnings just was reaching to the bottom of the wheel, and Arlen Kotlinski, for me, those buttons, the wipers and the hyperdrive, are the two buttons you're going to be using an enormous amount. So maybe they need to, you know, look at what F1 have done with the ergonomics of steering wheels and go, right, what do we need the most? At what point? When are we using it? You know, pit lane speed limit, you're only doing 30. You can put that wherever you want. When you're doing 100 and you need the wipers and you're going over some bumps, different.
Next up, it was JBXE, 1 lap down for Arlen Kotlinski, who was first out in the car. Jensen Button looking on with Kevin Hansen as well. This team wanted to impress today. They made a little bit of a mistake in the first run of qualifying, so time to make up out there. And they are doing a good job right now, aren't they?
Arlen Kotlinski's really on top of this car. Look at the way she was pushing through turn 1. Watch her now down through turn 2 on the brakes, getting turned in, and she's early on the throttle. Look, opposite lock on the exit. She's certainly not afraid to use the full width of the road. 5.8 seconds quicker they're going at the moment than Chadwick and Woolridge for Veloce. This time she doesn't use hyperdrive on this section. Where did she use it last time? Was it in Super Sector, I think, on the previous lap?
Don't know, to be honest.
We saw her reach down for it. It was late in the lap, because we were talking about it very late in the lap. There is Jensen Button in the command centre, and that means that Kevin Hansen has left the command centre to go to the switch zone. A lot of opposite lock in the middle of that corner. Some 6 seconds up now. This is a great run. P8 yesterday, thanks to the penalties and things just not going quite their way. If they get a good run here, that could put them in the top 6. Remember, Jenny, top 6 semi-finals, bottom 3, crazy race.
Yeah, keep out of that. That's what your aim is for this weekend. And look how much water she took. She went through one of those big puddles at that point, which we haven't seen anyone doing so far today. So slightly different line, but she is giving it everything she can. And at the moment, very dedicated, very, very good lap.
I think it's really important to be in the semi-finals here, bearing in mind that 2 cars go through from each of them. And we really don't know, and neither do the teams, what the visibility is going to be like as she uses the hyperdrive at the back. We don't know what the visibility is going to be like with multiple cars on track. We don't know what the passing opportunities are going to be. So if you're in a semi, you have double the chance of making it through to the final. If you're in that crazy race, you could lose the start, and that might be a game over. So this really is critical. I think tactical chat overnight, get the job done. We want to be in the semi-final.
Oh, lovely section there. 53.118 for Sector 3. That is the traction challenge sector. It's not fast enough to take the 5 points away from anybody else at the moment, but just goes to show how well that she managed to navigate that 3rd sector, and this whole of the 2 laps. Really impressive.
Yeah, it's only 9/10 off the fastest, isn't it, which is Matthias Ekstrom at the moment. Really good drive. Up the middle of the chutes this time. This is where the problem was yesterday. Loses around a second over that bumpy section, then up to the top of the hill. We've seen some of the drivers using the handbrake over that crest. So I don't think that's a bad shout, to be honest. A little bit of understeer there for Arlen Kotlinski as she came through. Drops it down to 30 clicks, and she will now hand it over to Kevin Hansen.
Yeah, so she makes sure she doesn't go through the finish markers there. She goes to the left of that as she comes into this switch zone. Now, the switch is important. 45 seconds on the clock for them to hand over to their co-driver. And for this one, Kevin Hansen just waiting. You can see people watching on. Excited that the event's come to Dorset, and excited to see what Hansen can do when he gets his shot in the car. Around this corner, very gingerly. Yeah, that's going to be a really tricky part for when they're actually racing, isn't it? Because they're going to do that in aggression, and aggressive 30 kilometers an hour racing. It's a little bit like Citroen TCV racing. Love it.
I like the fact they're having to use the handbrake in the switch zone. Okay, so a little bit of feedback there for Kevin. There we go, good job, Michaela. I'd agree with that, absolutely brilliant job.
Just see them buckling up,
yeah,
a big smile there. That's
know,
lovely.
She's so confident too. A couple of brilliant race wins in the United States. She had a win and a P2 just a couple of weeks ago, and the confidence is coming, isn't it?
There goes the bucket. So we saw that yesterday. Some of the teams were using a bucket of water just to help clear the windscreen, because the wiper fluid that they have is actually pretty limited, the amount of it. You were doing your research the other day, weren't you?
Yeah, only 1.5 litres of washer fluid, and that's good for about 40 seconds of jets on the screen. So that bucket of water over the front of the screen is pretty crucial.
Michaela, great job, 6 seconds up there. What did you say to Kevin? Any tips for him?
I said it's really rutted out there, really bumpy. For the next drive, I think we need to do some changes of the car. So it's definitely different compared to yesterday, but thanks, I enjoyed it.
Good, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just that confidence, Jenny, the smile, the things she said. I think we need to make changes. You know, not now getting in the car and going, can I hang on to it? Getting in the car and going, I want to do this with it. It's different than it was yesterday. Just another sign of a brilliant improvement through the course of the season. I'm loving that. It's great to see all of these drivers coming into this championship and learning stuff as the season's gone on.
Yeah, I just wonder what setup changes they can make. I suppose they'll change the suspension a little bit, just make it a little bit easier for them to drive, to be able to tackle these ridges, the bumps that they're experiencing. Oh, lovely bit of action there from Hansen. Yeah, to be able to, you know, get the best out of the track now it's changed. Yeah, she's saying it's rutted. It's always a compromise. Any kind of off-road driving is always a compromise because of the fact that the traction and the ruts and things will vary elsewhere. You've also got the jump to cater for. So when you're dialing the suspension in, you've got to take into account everything on the circuit. So traction on the exit is really important, obviously, and then you've got how the car lands off the jump, how it feels in the corners, then the ruts. So it might be they'll look at it and go, we'd like to do this for the ruts. Yeah, as you say, they'll know what to do when they come back. They've got a whole team there looking at the performance, looking at how to get the best out of the car. And at the moment, my word, Kevin Hansen is definitely getting the best out of the car, using his hyperdrive at the moment to go down this straight. You can see those big puddles, but the water doesn't really even come close to the windscreen. Let's see how he takes this knife edge. Relatively tentative. Yeah, very short jump at 8.72 up. There you can see an idea of what's going on inside the car. So many inputs, look, for throttle and torque, and not so much on the brake right now, but wait and see the brake at the end of this section here. Just a little bit of left foot on the brake to get the car turned in. Up to the top of the hill now, and then you got the very bumpy section. So that right-hand line that he's through, that's where the rear end of the car's kicking up high, but that is definitely the optimal line through that section. So he comes up towards the twins, takes the middle of those. You can't take the left-hand lane. You could take the right-hand lane if you're forced to, but it's not the fastest way around this track. So we're coming up to the end. Hansen setting the fastest time at the moment. Oh, my word, that is a great time to put on the board, going almost 8 seconds faster than anybody else. Well, down in the command centre, the next team is ready to go. You can see that it is Andretti United. So we have Timmy Hansen waiting to go into the car, and first up it'll be Katie Munnings. Some really good times out there so far, and let's see what this Andretti United team can do. They take the line, green light, and away they go, not getting too bogged down. That's the section which is sticky. That's the section which holds onto the car and doesn't let you go. Katie Munnings, she's done this track already. She's had as much research as everybody else, but now it's the time, as you can see, the mud caking onto the underside of the car for her to go out there and try and get a really fast time on the clock. Love seeing that shot underneath. You can see just how filthy these cars get. Bear in mind when they come back in, you know, the mechanics have still got to go for a full prep check on it, a bolt check, look at everything, find out everything, change the settings. It's a big old machine, and it's a big old thing to jet wash before you can even get into the, you know, looking at it. Bottom left corner there, look at that. Great shot, isn't it? Yeah, they've been given extra washing time, actually, this weekend, because the cars are getting so dirty. And when I was in the car and talking to Katie Munnings about this on Tuesday, you couldn't see any of the branding. Branding was gone. It was just a big brown car covered in mud. That'll be fun for us come the finals, won't it? Luckily, the course is drying out as we go through the weekend. So as we approach the ditch and then all those puddles that we had yesterday, you can see that actually not too bad today. Looking at that underside shot as well, you can see the drive shaft in the middle. You can actually see the huge brake calipers. These cars are running massive wheels and tyres. At the minute, live position is P3, but only 0.53 of a second off, so Munnings is absolutely bang on it as well. This is undoubtedly the closest racing we've seen all season. A combination for me of the great upgrades made to the car by Spark, the steering upgrades. We had no problems at all in that first session today. And also, I just think more and more people feeling more and more comfortable with the car. Look at the suspension now moving up and down so quickly. Munnings uses the hyperdrive. And then you can also actually, look at the sparks. You can see the sparks when she was braking there. You can see when she goes onto the brakes. And that would be a combination of the brake pad material up against the discs. And also, when we spoke to Jensen Button and JBXE on Thursday, they were saying that they're getting so much mud ground into those pads that it's actually wearing them away really quickly. Yeah, she took knife edge quite nicely. and not setting the world alight in that traction challenge zone. She's a good couple of seconds off the fastest time there, but it's a pretty stable run, and actually each of the cars and the setup of the cars are favouring different parts, aren't they? Different sectors of this track.
That shot's great, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's great to see. Where it's that dark underneath the car, rear end of the car pops up high. Katie goes through the splash and through the finish. And Munnings then onto the second lap for Andretti United. Sideways onto the start-finish straight, comes down now through that dry section. See, that one line through there now really works, doesn't it, in terms of not losing it. But the second half, sort of 50 metres after the start line, you can see the car get bogged down again.
Yeah, that's kind of going to be the pinch point, and grid play is going to be so important because the driver's going to want their preferred line, and some of them aren't going to get it. It's as simple as that. When it comes to the semis, when it comes to the final, with 5 cars out there, there's going to be a lot of disgruntled drivers taken to the line thinking, well, I've never tried my car out here. I have no idea how this is going to react. I've got no idea which points are going to hold me back. And I'm surprised nobody else has even tried it, just to give themselves an idea of what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, because everybody is starting from the same point of the grid. Of course, that's because they know if they, well, they're looking at thinking this isn't going to work. And when we saw yesterday, when it was really wet, the starts were slower than they were today. I really am intrigued to see how far across that grid the cars are spread and who gets what in terms of line.
Munnings absolutely flying out there. The car looks so impressive as she comes up to the ditch section, through to the water. What line is she going to take? They were hugging the inside left, but today it doesn't seem to matter too much. Straight through the middle there. Kicking up the mud, the dirt. Oh, that was an uncomfortable landing there, though. She took too much bounce there, I think. A little bit ungainly from the rear end of that car, but still trying to find some time out there, trying to go faster. She wants to hand over to Hansen in the best possible way, and you can see JBXE looking on to see exactly how their rivals are doing. This is the battle, of course, for third place in the championship between these two teams. Andretti United leading by 1 point from JBXE. That's why it matters so much this weekend. Still mathematically, I think. Are they in with a chance mathematically? I think maybe.
If X44 and RXR had a complete and utter shocker, you know, we know there's a slight outside chance, but Andretti United will want to get that P3. It's like the Olympics, isn't it? It's a medal. Yes, you want the gold one, but a silver or a bronze is still a good result for a hard work season. They've signed these drivers for next year already, and they'll want to beat JBXE. JBXE, likewise, will want to nick it off them. And we've got the Hansen brothers in opposite teams there. Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski and Katie Munnings both improving throughout the season to become, you know, they're formidable partnerships in both teams. They're 4.2 off right now. Yeah, I'm fascinated by how this is going to go. Going to hand over to Timmy Hansen for one last lap now.
Yeah, so into the switch zone they go. They limit a button, which is their pit limiter, which takes them down to 30 kilometers per hour. Then they'll have to go round the top bend, sling it through to the right, all, as you can see, at slow speeds. And you can see the amount of mud, and it's thick, oozy mud as well, that you could, if you step in it, your boot's coming off and you're going to be in trouble. Let's just have a look at Munnings again, and the sparks coming off of that. Look at that. Incredible shot, isn't it?
Yeah, really good. Obviously, because it's under the car and it's nice and dark under there, we can see what's going on. Gives you an idea of how much a race car does. You know, in any conditions, race cars get put under a huge amount of stress, and the upgrades which they've made one set of upgrades to this car already, and there's a bunch more coming for season 2. Just to make sure that we have some really great close racing right to the line. Season 1, you know, there's so much to learn even for the manufacturer. Yeah. These tracks are hardcore, and they're making the improvements needed to make sure the racing is hardcore too, and I'm excited for that.
Lovely dismount there. You can see the jug of water they've got ready to go, but actually they're not allowed to get an extra technician in there. So man with jug not allowed to go into the zone. So it's going to be the man there. You can see the mechanic who needs to come back, grab said water jug, chuck it on top. This is going to cost them a little bit of time if they're under 45 seconds, and it just drags them over maybe. But
I think they're good.
I think they're fine, aren't they?
They've been really quick, if you remember, at the driver changes all season, Andretti United. They've done a lot of practice for it. You can see they've got the rubber straps up to the top to pull the harnesses up, just all those little details. The team, Andretti United, have got background in things like endurance racing. They know how to do a driver change quickly. Nice job.
Katie, you're in second, 3.7 seconds off the pace. Talk me through what was so challenging there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rough. I went wide in a corner. I actually, over the jump, I locked up coming into it, and then I thought I might have broken something because I couldn't turn into the right after the jump, so I think I lost that there. But yeah, it was better for me today. I had visibility. Yesterday we had a broken wire on the washers, so I just basically saw nothing on my lap, so it was much better for me. Hopefully it stays the same for Timmy.
Is the track developing, and how is it developing?
Yeah, I mean, as we run over it, it's going to get more rusted, I guess, but it's going to be a different story through the semis now. It's going to be a completely different driving style and different game, so yeah, it's better than I expected, but still, yeah, challenge.
Thank you.
Timmy Hansen is chasing down that lead. They're now just 1.03 seconds behind as we see him go through the rough. So we've got Tamara Molinaro on the line. Tamara, you're one of the championship drivers. What can you tell us about how conditions are developing there in Dorset?
So hi everybody, first of all. So yeah, the track is actually developing a lot, especially because we didn't have a lot of rain recently in the last days. So a lot of the water that was actually there when, for example, I tested last Sunday, it's gone. So for sure it's getting faster. And yeah, we can see every lap that there is like a cleaner line. So it's really changing quickly.
It looks good out there at the moment, doesn't it? And where do you think the best place is to use hyperdrive? We've just seen Timmy Hansen use it.
Well, I mean, it depends what the strategy of the team, you know. Of course, we have the super sector, so depending if the teams are seeking more on trying to get the super sector or not.
Oh, Hansen's off. Hansen's gone off. He'd just gone quickest on the Continental Traction Challenge by 1/10 of a second. He'd gone quickest in that sector with a 52.1, and then he crashes the car. It's a big off into the trees, reverses the Odyssey 21 back out. He's going to drag the car back on. This run's not over. Go on, Timmy Hansen. That car is a mess, and he's going to try and drag it to the finish.
Just look at him go. What on earth happened there? Timmy Hansen just having too much of it. The bonnet's flapping around all over the place. How much visibility has he got? There's not far to go on this course at the moment. He's just got to drag it up these twins. Then he'll do a left. Look at the car. It looks ugly as anything, but it's still going. He's got to come and grab onto it. He'll just come up to this, do the left. The time is slow now. He's lost so much time, but amazing to get the car back on track.
Hero drive. Hansen puts it in the bushes and then brings it to the finish line. But we say hero, he won't be feeling like a hero with that mistake. He'll be absolutely gutted. He has, though, gone quickest, I think, in the Continental Traction Challenge sector. I'm sure he showed up as a 52.1. So this is Timmy Hansen hitting the flag earlier in the run, but he doesn't take it down, and you're allowed to hit it. And oh, does it come down afterwards? Or did it stay upright? Is this the off? So he comes over the bump, rear end of the car is up. Oh, he runs wide, so he's come over the bump and run the car wide. Underbody on the car is damaged. Now he's trying to find reverse. I'm actually pretty staggered. Look at that. Turning in, Jenny, nothing there. He knows he's going off at this point. Brace, 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 and he's in. Boom. Final qualifying session of the year. It's absolutely crucial for the top two teams in the series. RXR, there is RXR, found the Nico Rosberg in the command centre, and it's his team that out on track next. You can see Johan Kristoffersson in the command centre. That was a quick look at Sebastian Loeb, who of course is driving for X44, their title rivals, and JBXE, who are currently fastest in the session. Super sector, the Continental Traction Challenge, has just gone to Andretti United, a 52.1 from Timmy Hansen, but did he crash as a result of nicking that 10th right at the end of the Continental Traction Challenge? We're going to have a little look on this next few laps and try and figure out if that's exactly where he went off or not. In the meantime, it's championship leader Molly Taylor in the car, first of all, for RXR.
And a nice start from Taylor as well. So she managed to take a little bit of the position off the line and go a little bit faster than anybody else. You can see the live position down on the bottom right of your screen. That tells you exactly where they are. That's the waypoint marker that seems to be tripping everybody up at the moment. But no problems for Taylor. I have to say, after sharing a car with her on Tuesday, she is an excellent, excellent driver. She likes to use the handbrake, and I think as this track develops, Andrew, the handbrake and use of it is going to be quite crucial to making sure you put yourself in a decent position when it comes to the race.
I've always said with rally drivers, it's about adapting to what's happening all the while. So the more rally driving you do, the more backup plans you have. And by a handbrake, you can use it as your initial plan, but if things go wrong and the car doesn't turn in, that's the point at which you can reach for the handbrake, and it's one of your first backup plans. So you're dead right, Jenny. Expect as the conditions get tricky and the car isn't doing what the drivers want them to do, they might well be reaching for what's sometimes known as the wand, the happy stick, or the bar, but it's the handbrake.
Never heard any of those terminologies.
This is why Formula One needs handbrakes, Jenny, because it would just be much more cooler.
Look, they've only just, I love that, they've only just got reverse on there. Right, left through this Continental Traction Challenge. So what can she do out there? She's down, but she uses the hyperdrive at the moment to try and claw back some of that 1.7 seconds that she's down.
They're using that bank on the outside, so they're actually gunning the throttle really early, and then they're using the bank to almost catch the car. So you know the car's going to run wide because you've gone full throttle on the exit. Doing that, and then you let it run across, and it's maybe 8 inches high, but it's enough to run the tyre walls of the Continental tyres up against. That is the bump where I think Timmy Hansen went off. So I think he has gained that extra tenth of a second. It's going to cost Andretti United a few quid, certainly in terms of repairs, and they've got a little bit of a headache on their hands in terms of getting the car repaired. They were yesterday. Where were they? That's a good point.
Yesterday.
They were P6 yesterday, so they've just lost 20 seconds with Timmy Hansen off. Could it see them in the crazy race, which is later on today, so they have to get the car repaired very quickly, or can they hang on to P6 and end up in the semi-finals? But they have got those 5 points, Jenny, in the battle with JBXE. It's a real gamble.
Yeah, and you've got to look at the moment that JBXE are leading the timesheets as things stand. So they've set the fastest time of the day. They've in fact set the fastest time of the weekend so far with a 9:18. So we know what the target is. We know what they have to do, but the battle for third place really intense. And you can bet your bottom dollar they've gone into this. They'd have a look at the strategy, their own tactics, and each team doing something slightly different depending on what you're chasing for your weekend.
RXR, Luke, +6, so another, just losing a little half-second here and there. Is this the safe approach to it, do you think? It's the trouble is the timesheets are pretty tight at the top. You could end up finding yourself a fair way down. They don't really want to lose more than a few points to X44 if they can. You know, each time, obviously X44 as well, I'm fully expecting Sebastian Loeb to try to take that Continental Traction Challenge away from Andretti United. Those 5 points are actually crucial for them, aren't they, in closing down RXR?
Yeah, it's fascinating that the two teams are actually standing next to each other in the command centre. So Christopherson right next to Loeb. Taylor will go in there and she'll be right next to Gutierrez. How much can they psych each other out? Are they going to get to sledging territory like they do in cricket? Who knows? But it's a stable run from Taylor, but it's not setting the timing screens alight, which is unusual for her, because she normally goes out and absolutely blitzes it. So as you say, just wonder if they're just using a different approach, as you pointed out already.
They don't want to drop down, obviously, with an issue. Don't want to have an off. Look at Hansen's just had an off. You know, say there's some of the best drivers in the world, but Jenny, this has been our most incident-free qualifying so far this season. Why would you say that? And that's well, maybe we're giving it the commentator's curse, but that's an indication of, say, the improved strength on the cars, but also less mistakes from the drivers. So we've just seen one from Timmy. RXR, you know, maybe taking an approach which is, let's not go too mad. 10 seconds down at the moment on the leading time, which is JBXE.
It's a big margin to be down by that much on these first couple of runs. So let's see what Christopherson does. Taylor will hand over to Christopherson. They've done the knife edge, they've done the sector 3, and they're about 4 or 5 seconds off some of the fastest times that we've seen in that traction challenge. So I wonder if the car's just not handling really well for Molly at the moment. She's not feeling comfortable in it.
I'm looking at the timing screen as well, though, Jenny, and if you look, it's a 9:18 for JBXE. Veloce are in 9:26, so this would actually put them, if they're 10 seconds off, it would put them into P3 ahead of Cupra, which is enough. So they're not miles off, are they? It's kind of, is it a case of judge the pace and don't do anything daft? We're coming into the switch zone now, 10 seconds down. The predictor says P5, but for me, 10 seconds down won't end up being there. It will end up being P3 based on the times at the end of the 3 laps. You see what I mean? The gap down to P3 is less than 10.
Well, let's see what happens, and let's see what Christopherson can do. So they've gone into that first switch zone. So that's the first time I think we've seen the car going in on that side. Normally they come around to the other side. It's pre-drawn, pre-selected. Bucket's gone over.
Was hoping we might hear some feedback between the two, but we just saw Johan chuck a big bucket of water over the screen and jump in.
Yeah, quite a quiet handover, actually. She helps to close the door, gets herself out. That's a really big, wet, muddy area compared to some of the more utilised and used switch zones around the other side. But he can go round that corner now.
They've got a tear-off screen. On the front of that screen, top right corner, is a little tab on the outside, which you can grab, and you can then peel off an entire layer of plastic off the front. So they've bet there, I think, on whether or not they might have problems later in the weekend, whether they might run out of... whether they'll run out of windscreen washer, whether they might have a problem with the wipers. They've got an option.
Nico, Molly was 10 seconds off the pace, not what we're used to seeing from her. Was there an issue with the car, or has the strategy changed?
No, but of course, we're fighting for the championship, the others are not. So that's a big, big difference in your approach. So it's all part of the strategy to try and bring it home this weekend.
And you know more than most what it's like fighting for a championship and the pressure that they must be feeling. How does that pressure compare to being CEO and team founder?
Oh, pressure is always there because we're here, we want to win, we want to win together. But you're speaking to me now, my car is like out there in action, like I want to watch the action.
I'll let you get back to it. Thank you.
But anyways, it's great.
I always used to hate that when you're trying to talk to a driver and they've got out of qualifying early potentially and they're all eyes, all concentration. We see some great memes with Alonso this year because they just want to know what's going on with the car, with whoever they want to be leading or on pole.
I love the thing, it's that awkward thing, isn't it, of this zero eye contact. Like, this is great, but I'm just giving you the massive side eye because I'm looking at the screen to my right here and trying to analyse the sectors. But Nico confirmed to us what we thought, which is that this is about strategy. So they're of the impression that JBXE have taken risks. Of course JBXE have taken risks. They're in a battle for P3 in the standings with Andretti United, who've just nicked 5 points on the traction challenge and then bitten the car. So it's actually turning into a really interesting day as Kristoffersen gets up on 2 wheels as well.
Yeah, so that's turn 10, the waypoint 10, which is proving really tricky for some people if you just don't line it up right. You want to hug the left-hand side of it, but a little bit too much hugging became heavy petting and almost ruined it for them.
It did, didn't it? I wonder whether or not they'll try to... Maybe they'll keep an eye on the Continental Traction Challenge and see what Loeb does. Do you try on this one or not? We'll find out.
You've got to try on this one. I think second lap, there we go, into the hyperdrive. So they're going to give it full beans now and see what they can do. Going into knife edge, using this tactic to use hyperdrive to give yourself as much speed as possible. Scrub a little bit of speed off as you go into the jump. Take a massive bit of air. RXR and Kristoffersen, they are taking no prisoners here. He is going for it. He didn't listen to the boss's words.
52.116 was the target. It's not enough. 51.940 is what Kristoffersen gets. So that big jump was definitely an attempt to take the...
They've got it. They've got the traction challenge. They've gone faster than anybody else so far. The 51.940. They've smashed through it.
I'm looking at the wrong second, Jenny. It's a good job you're awake, isn't it? So, yeah, 2/10 quicker. So that big jump then is what sealed it.
Wowzers, that was a fast time. So Loeb and Gutierrez are watching on at this, and they know what they have to do. This is a great drive from Kristoffersen. He is doing an absolute whopper. Rosberg might have told him go steady. What? No way.
Here's that jump, look. So over the top, Kristoffersen jumps very long, but it's perfectly judged because he lands right at the bottom. You see the Continental tyres taking up some of that impact as well. Up and over the top, here we go. And back down, finally sees the ground. Great job by Kristoffersen. He's nicked the top of those standings. That's 5 extra championship points. On board with Johan Kristoffersen, just picked up his 4th World Rallycross Championship, looking to pick up with his teammate Molly Taylor the first ever Extreme E title. A part of that, of course, is the Continental Traction Challenge, which is worth 5 points. They don't really need those 5 points, but they don't want X44 to get them. And my goodness me, he made that pretty obvious from the start of his run here.
Yeah, so aggressive, a clear mission and purpose out there for Kristoffersen. Windscreen wipers going, and you can see the concentration on his bespectacled face as he tries to get this Odyssey 21 round this track as quickly as possible. No need to be reserved for him. He could go out there full tilt.
He definitely was full tilt. You can see down the straight the commitment into these long right-handers. You can also see how bumpy it is. Look at him, the torso being rattled around from side to side. This is into the Continental Traction Challenge. Over the crest now, uses the handbrake to rotate the car, uses it a lot again on the exit. So he came in there a little bit quicker than he was expecting and had to use that to get it done, but finds a good enough exit speed.
Yeah, now just watch out, because he's going to use his hand in a moment to go onto the hyperdrive, and that will boost the car and give them an extra 400 kilowatts of power. 4 seconds, you can see when he's done it. It's so fast to react as he swings the car around and really grapples with it to try and get the fastest speed he can.
So this is the point where he would use the hyperdrive coming onto the straight up to the jump, and he flies the jump long, and that was what we think was key in how many tenths he managed to take off. There you go, really long jump, seems to take forever to come down, coming up to the end of his sector now, and that, as he crosses past the Continental flags at the exit gate, was enough to go fastest so far. Now that award is still up for grabs, of course, tomorrow, Jenny, you know, in the semi-finals and the final, but is it going to be possible in traffic?
Well, that'll be the question. He did a 51.940 in Sector 3, which was an absolute blistering lap. And you can just see as he comes up to the twins, takes the left-hand chute up, really wrestling with this car. Such a heavy car, uses the handbrake again, a little bit of input there. Team that likes to do that, crosses the finishing line. Job done.
Yeah, brilliant drive, absolutely fantastic drive. And I would love to have been in the team briefing, you know, because obviously they'd said to Molly, just cruise yourself around, bring it in, you know, relatively close, it's fine. And then I think they've said to Johan, get out there and stop Loeb from getting those extra points. That's what it looks like. When we spoke to Nico in the command center, he said roughly the same, didn't he? We are fighting for a championship.
Yeah, and the championship is so key to all of this. We know the expectations. We know the X44 16 points coming into this event and trailing. Can they close the gap? Can they put more pressure on RXR? Can they force them into a mistake? X44, it's the time for them to take to this track. Gutierrez, 2 laps, and then it'll be Loeb taking the final lap. They know what they have to do this weekend. They trail in the championship by 16 points. There you can see, limbering up for Loeb. He is ready to go, and the dynamic in that command center, fabulous. And look at that. Biodiversity, key to this weekend. Just one of the stories we're covering, as well as a championship fight. And off we go, it's X44, they are taking to the track. Gutierrez needs a good, clean start. How conservative will they go? That's the question. We know that RXR have gone slightly conservative today.
I think it'll be the opposite for X44, so particularly with what Christopherson did on that last run. So they are in the lead. They can afford for Molly to go steady for a couple of laps, bring it in. Johan's obviously gone out with a brief, no risk except for Sector 3. Sector 3, send it, see if you can get those 5 championship points. Loeb has no choice, Jenny, but to respond to that. And Gutierrez too, perhaps. The team may tell her, you know, because they can afford to take more risks, they may say to Gutierrez, you go for it every time in the super sector as well. They could have 3 cracks at it, but RXR can play the safer game, and I feel X44 probably won't. You've got to go for it. They're chasing.
Beautiful driving by Gutierrez out there, taking that long corner, and a lovely demonstration of what you can do in these Odyssey 21s. There's so many little bits of technical track out there. This one of the first of the big ones, the ditch. How will she take it? Nicely taken. Avoids a lot of the big water that's standing there, and then platters into it on the right-hand side. I reckon going out slightly wider than some people, but avoiding one of the bigger bumps as well by doing that.
I think you're right there. Let's see when we get to the next sector whether it was quicker or not, or if she ran wide. Absolutely bang on the time at the moment of JBXE, who lead the session. Coming up towards that right-hander. Sebastian Loeb, he's now getting his lid on and good to go. You can see there, they're checking his control leads up on the top.
Gutierrez, so impressive. She deploys her hyperdrive going down to knife edge. This seems to have come to a communal way of thinking that this is a good spot to take it, to build on the entry. Then you scrub off the speed. Oh, bit sideways onto that. Not the best landing for Gutierrez.
It won't be the best exit in terms of speed, but she's chasing after that time of Johan Christopherson, who is currently the leader there. the 51.9. That's only a 54.4, so not close enough. But it may well be that that's where they want to deploy it anyway. You know, if they've looked at the lap times and gone, that's good enough. And I've learnt my lesson. I must look at both parts of the time, not just the tenths.
You're doing grand, you're doing grand. So Gutierrez coming round to the twin section. She'll use the middle line. Remember, left-hand lane is not in track, so you want to use the middle. Don't want to get pushed out to the right. How close will she keep it as she comes through the top? Nicely through that big splash of the water. And remember, 2 laps to the first driver, so she'll go again.
Gutierrez heads on to lap 2. Interesting watching her onboards. Like Loeb, she doesn't use the handbrake that much. There's that crest at the top of the chute where you go left, and we see some of the drivers using it just to get a bit more rotation in the car. There's that ever so wet starting grid. Look at the right-hand side, Jenny. I know we're talking about it early, but it's going to be a factor, I think. Jensen Button in the command centre was talking just a few moments ago with Carlos Sainz. I mean, that's a great full respect matchup, isn't it, for what each of them does? I love that.
One of the lovely parts of Extreme E is just watching how the different drivers interact with each other. You've got Rosberg there, of course, Hamilton, the founder and CEO of X44 as well, instrumental to getting this team going, to a lot of the principles behind it. And my word, he did a good job of managing to sign Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez, both exemplary records in their own fields.
Yeah, brilliant. Genius signings, weren't they? Gutierrez has been so impressive since the start of the season. Backs the car in nice into that long right-hander and just smooth on the exit. On lap 1, she ran it all the way across the road. She does the same again. She's within 1.5 seconds of JBXE, going to bring the car home at the end of this lap to swap to Loeb, who will chase down Kevin Hansen's benchmark for that final lap there. Just a little nip on the handbrake, and that was into the wet section just to try and get it turned in. You're on board on the right-hand side, gives you an idea of the visibility. Could still be an issue, remember, when we've got multiple cars on track.
So different place that they're using hyperdrive on the second lap. This is all things they'll have sat down on as a team. They'll have worked out exactly how they want to approach this, how they want to challenge it. So they're getting a lot of traction. Just a little bit loose coming into this section, but they are in the Continental Traction Challenge. They will be wanting to have another bite of this cherry to see what they can do in Sector 3 as they come down to knife edge.
2.83 down now, so maybe it wasn't quite the right tactical hyperdrive there. I agree with you, Jenny. She looked a tiny bit wide on the run into the first of those 3 corners. She loses another second, so 3.6 down, but still very much within reach.
Yeah, so she did a 55.220 in the traction challenge. The fastest time out there at the moment at 26.1. So 3 seconds down on that. And just look down there, 3 seconds is what she needs to do to claw back. And she is doing that right now, having a really good section in Sector 4. And this is the preparation she needs to be able to hand over to Loeb to see what he can do. Coming down all the time. Really nice moments for Gutierrez as she swings it round, sends the tail, and then through the large puddle. She'll have to kill the speed, as she does, and they're through to the switch zone. 2 really, really strong laps from Gutierrez to give X44 as much of a chance as they can to wrestle some points away from RXR and try and take the lead of this championship.
Another look at Gutierrez over the jump. There, so again, could you see she was crossed up as she approached the top? So where she's late on the brakes, the rear end of the car's locked up, she's crossed up as she hits it, and that means then that's amplified as you go over. Here you are on board. Watch for the left steering. She's trying to hold on. Look, almost a turn of lock on as she's trying to catch the slide on the brakes, and then that pitches the car as you come over the top.
Really interesting, because we saw Loeb having issues coming over that jump as well yesterday. He didn't nail it. So let's see what he can do now. 1.5 down at the moment. The fastest time set this weekend so far, JBXE with a 9:18.905. So can they set the fastest time? Can they guarantee themselves trying to get the top spot again when it comes to qualifying? Because so far, their record, nobody else can come close to it.
They're unbeaten in qualifying all year. They've been the top qualifiers 4 out of 5 times. They won the session yesterday. Loeb has one job to do here in 1 lap. He is 100% going to go for the extra points. He has to try and get Christopherson off that top spot in the Continental Traction Challenge. Job done by Gutierrez, who's in the switch zone. It's down to Loeb now, her teammate.
Cristina in second place, 1.5 seconds down. You've very much done what you needed to do. Now it's up to Sebastian. Are you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, especially we need to see
how is the track now, because it's a little bit more destroyed than yesterday. So we try to be fast and also intelligent to try to take a good position. And then the rest of in the hands of Seb, though that is a good signal.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic to hear from Gutierrez. Loeb now in the car, and you can see he absolutely means business. He is taking the lead of this session. He's now gone fastest. How much can he claw back? How much does he want this? Because they are risking everything right now, it feels like.
They sure are. If they take the win in this session, if they go fastest now, the only way they could be denied the top qualifier spot would be if both Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing and actually on the Sainz went quicker than them. And Sainz would have to win the session. Sainz was P3 as a team in Q1. So if they could knock Loeb down to P3, but that relies on both them and Chip Ganassi beating them. Of course, that's if they go quickest. Then, Jenny, the tie-break comes down to who was quickest in the Continental Traction Challenge. I think we know that Loeb's going to go for this.
He's absolutely in it now. Remember, he only gets one lap by the way things are split out this weekend. So this is his moment to try and take it to Kristoffersson, who at the moment is leading in that section. The time he is looking for in Sector 3 is a 51.940.
Threading through the narrow section now, through the right-hander, leaning on the X44 hard. Going to come onto the straight. There it is, hyperdrive, exactly where expected. Top right-hand side of your screen, 51.940 is the time of Kristoffersson for Rosberg X Racing. 5 championship points up for grabs. Kristoffersson flew the jump big time. Loeb doesn't fly it quite so much. He's quickest so far on this lap, but is he going to be quickest come the end of this sector? 51.9's not enough. 52.5, he's 0.6 down.
So that's a big 5 points that could swing towards the RXR team. It wasn't fast enough from Loeb, but I tell you what, they're still flying out there. Absolutely fastest at the moment. A 2-second advantage over JBXE. Can they secure themselves the fastest qualifier and collect those points? He's very sideways coming into the twins at the moment. This is the final section of the lap. What can he do? He's fastest at the moment. Goes through the finishing line. Big puddle on the way in, and it's a good time, a 9:14.793.
Fastest so far. That should be enough to secure them all the top qualifier spots this season, which is an incredible record, but 2 cars still to come.
Acciona Sainz next up, and it's Leia Sands in the car. She's on the 2nd lap. She had a little bit of a messy first lap right at the end of it, but she has been very impressive out there, doing what she needs to do. Can they wrestle away the fastest time today? She needs to find time out there.
The points on your right-hand side of your screen were the current points, if you like, so it showed them in 7th. They're actually, they're down there because 6 of the cars, 7 of the cars have already been out on track, so they're actually P3 as of yesterday, and they're P3 right now, 3.65 down. Big moment for Sands in the braking zone to those 2 chutes, got the car super sideways, but held onto it. Now needs to bring this back as close as possible for Carlos Sainz to try and attack Sebastian Loeb. We know how good Loeb is. Sands is proving she's, you know, completely equal to Gutierrez, other than that little mistake. But yeah, got to go for it. Got to
Jutta Kleinschmidt is joining us from the commentary box from the Abt Cooper team. Jutta, conditions seem really tough out there today.
Yes, it is tough because you can see still places muddy, but it's getting better and better. So this place for sure is very muddy where we see Leia now. And this is a very tricky place. You really have to go slow over the little hill to make this left corner. Otherwise, you lose time. And yeah, it's very tricky and special, this track.
How much tension is there in the paddock today? Because the championship is on the line this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's super close because Christina and Sebastian are doing a great job here. And also Leia, I have to say, she was all laps very good up now. Okay, she did this little mistake at the end of the first lap, but all the rest she's driving super nice, and also yesterday, so she is really on the pace.
Really late on the brakes there up to the jump. It was a nice run through. She's having a crack at the Traction Challenge as well. Not going to be quick enough on this occasion, though. Jutta, we've been looking at that start line. We're just starting to think now about getting into race mode and multiple cars on track. What are you guys thinking in the teams and the paddock about where you want to be on that starting grid?
In the moment, there's more or less only one place where you want to be. This is where every starts also for the qualifying. A little bit left to it, it's still okay, not good, but okay. And on the right, it's really, the water is still standing. You are half a meter in the mat. So the cars who are standing there, they will have really trouble to start, and I'm sure they are already behind before the first gate.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge problem. Is it grid play will probably be of importance. Now we can just see the switch zone. We've got a couple of bays to the left of the screen and then some to the right as well. How important is the switch zone? How difficult is it to get it right with the conditions?
Very difficult, a bit better today because it's not as slippery like yesterday. Yesterday, even with 30 km, the right turn was so slippery that you had understeering and maybe use a handbrake. And but you can see they prepared it, so it's much better today and less trouble.
Yeah, you can actually see the tractor tracks underneath the car, so they've driven a tracked vehicle, maybe a tank, it was a tank range after all, up and down that section, and under the car there you can see they've really squashed the water out there, and that has made the situation just a little bit easier. As Carlos Sainz jumps in, he's 5.82 down. We're seeing a replay of Leia Sands coming up, I think. Is this the slippery section? Yeah, she does really well to hold, because that, for me, that's right on the limit of what you can hold on to. She did well there, Jutta.
Yeah, so now we will see. Carlos has a big, huge job in front of him because Sebastian is super fast. Yeah. But I'm sure he will try the best.
Just tell us, the line over that jump seems to be so key, doesn't it? When it comes to racing, that's going to be a pressure point going over that jump.
Yeah, and on top of it, the jump is in the zone with 5 extra points, so this is super challenging. And it depends the speed, you know, so you are not 100% sure.
We're going to go down to the paddock, Jutta. Hold that thought.
Accelerate.
Laia, you're in fourth, 5.8 seconds down. How tricky are the conditions out there? We saw at the end of lap 1, it was quite hard to manage the car.
Yeah, it was a pity there. I lost some important seconds, but the track is getting broken, so yeah. But the important thing is to avoid the big mistakes and try to improve.
Thank you.
So that's Leia Sands. Before you heard Jutta Kleinschmidt. Thank you, Jutta, for joining us. We're just going to concentrate for a moment on Carlos Sainz and see what he can do out there. He's been an absolute beast so far this weekend. Yeah,
he has. He's a legend, isn't he? WRC legend, Dakar legend. And on another big push. In the team, it's named after him, Acciona Sainz. He would have loved to have come in just slightly closer to Loeb to be able to have a real attack. What you just said, he's bang on the money. Everybody knows that Sebastian Loeb on the limit is very hard for anybody to match. So Carlos would have had a crack at that. Leia, she knew where that mistake had cost her just a few seconds. Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody can see on a track like this, you're very exposed, aren't you? You know exactly, and everybody else knows exactly when you've not got it quite right. What a great shot going through the traction challenge section. The right, the left, flick it back round to the right as well. Decent time being set by Carlos, and he uses the hyperdrive here. Back gets a little bit loose on him as he deploys this extra 4 seconds, 400 kilowatts of power going through to knife edge. We've seen some great jumps from Carlos all weekend. Of course, he's used to jumping sand dunes in Dakar conditions, so he's quite good at judging the momentum that's needed for that. But for me, he was a little bit wide as he came onto that straight and got the hyperdrive just a little bit deep in that turn already, and maybe lost a bit of time. So, yeah, it's a 53.5, which is a fair way off Christopherson's best in there. So, I think, really, Chip Ganassi Racing, Kyle Leduc and Sarah Price could still go for that, couldn't they, for the 5 points?
And you know what they like to do? They like to race hard. So let's see, they're the last car going out, but this is all about Carlos Sainz coming up, taking it wide, really nice angle on that as he comes towards the finish line. It might not be 5 points for the traction challenge, but I tell you what, it's a good time. 9:22.621 puts them into third.
One car left to go in qualifying, the last qualifying session for 2021. And it is our spectacular friends with the Hummer EV at Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing. That's Kyle Leduc in the command centre. In the car is Sarah Price. Are they the unluckiest team in this championship?
Yep.
Did they deserve to win last time?
Yep.
There we go. Questions answered very quickly by Jenny Gow. looking forward to seeing what they can do here. They could go for those extra 5 championship points, I think, in the Continental Traction Challenge. It won't make a lot of difference to their finishing position, but it's about honour. You know, they deserve a win, they deserve some rewards, and I hope they go for it.
Yeah, they've just got to not go for it too much at this point. This is qualifying. They don't want to be in the crazy race. They need to get enough points in qualifying to get them into one of the 2 semi-finals, and that's what their target has to be.
I think that's the thing yesterday, isn't it? They said that there might be a different approach to it, but did they go too steady, Jenny? Because they ended up down in P7. They need P6, really, to edge themselves up. I'm trying to think who's in P6 in a minute. Is Ant Cooper, who yesterday were 4th. So really, these guys need to be aiming for a top 3 position. Where are Cooper in this session? 6th, a 4 and a 6. They were 7th. Yeah, no, they probably need 3rd or above to be able to, in terms of points, to be able to edge them and move up 1 space.
And that is something they are totally capable of doing. On a good day, the Segi TV Chip Ganassi racing team can get their Hummer around this track in absolute brilliance. It's whether they're having a good day or a bad day, whether the racing gods are on their side or not. But you can see Sarah is really dedicating herself to this. They know the mission. They know what they've got to do. She actually looks really calm and relaxed in the car.
Yeah, she does. She used to long distance events. She did the Baja 1000 very recently. I saw her and she's like, yeah, I got in the car at 6 p.m. and got out at 8, I think, in the morning. I mean, it was like, it's crazy. Absolutely loves her off-road motorsport and is very, very good at it indeed. Have a look at the bottom right of your screen. They are within a second of Gutierrez and Sebastian Loeb. Now, Kyle Leduc, I think, is well capable of putting in the lap that would be needed to match Loeb as well. Sarah Price uses the hyperdrive in the run-up to the jump. How long is she going to go? Not as long as she went to free practice, I'm sure of that. Edges the speed off. You're on board for the air. Lovely. Floats the jump onto the down ramp. So look how close it is, Jenny. 0.98, and you're in P4. It's very, very close at this point, but by the time they reach the end of the run, it is a little more spread out.
Yeah, I tell you what, Price had a cracking first sector. She set the fastest time of anybody out there through the weekend so far, so good for her. She is meaning business out there. It's a really strong driver pairing. Not fast enough, as you said, to take the traction challenge to Rosberg X Racing at the moment, but we've got another 2 laps, another 1 for Price, and then Carla Duke will get in, and she is catching.
There's 12 seconds between X44 at the top, then JBXE, actually own a Science of Rosberg X Racing and Veloce Racing, are all within 12 seconds of each other. Remember, we think these guys need 3rd or above. They might even need 2nd. They're going to go for it, I'm sure of it.
So it's the Segi TV Chip Ganassi racing team. It's Sarah Price at the wheel. She's done 1 lap, a very solid lap. Their live position is 4th. What can they do? They've got 1 more lap each around this track. They didn't have a good day yesterday. They haven't had a good championship so far, been beset by bad luck. Let's see if the racing gods are going to change their minds today.
P7 at the moment, or sorry, yesterday they were P7. They need to be in the top 6 to avoid being in that crazy race. Double your chances. Remember, 2 from 3 going through from the semis, only 1 from 3 from the crazy race. So this is a really important run. We felt yesterday that caution maybe was a little bit too cautious. I think, Jenny, from what you're seeing, I think this is a much more aggressive run.
Yeah, absolutely. They are committed to going out there and setting the fastest time they possibly can. I think it's a bit easier, actually, today as well, because they know what's on the board. They know exactly what they need to do to get themselves safe and outside of that crazy race, which you don't want to be in. A little bit hesitant, I think, from Sarah going around that turn. Didn't seem like she was like hugging onto the side as much as she could on that bank, but let's see what she does over 10 and going into the ditch, which is such an important area of this track.
First lap was absolutely bang on the money, literally within 10th. Look at the amount of mud that gets flung up. That's a brilliant rear shot there. See the Continental tyres flinging the dirt up behind the car. Still within 6 seconds, and at the top of the table, you know, there's 4 seconds between P1 and P2. There's only 8 between P1 and P3. They're in touch with the kind of result they need to get themselves into the semis. But it's got to be clean now, right the way through until the driver changing. Carlo Duke is going to have to do what he does best, which is switch on full send and just go for it.
Yeah, first sector was slightly disappointing, I think, for Price, and this run, she puts the hyperdrive on. Look at the car, it's an absolute beast to try and handle setup-wise. Let's see what she can do. Oh, beautiful bit of air. I think that was perfect going over that. Looked so impressive.
Yeah, it was nicely judged, wasn't it? Good pace, carries good momentum out the outside. P5, for me, it won't be P5 by the end of the run. If they hold this gap, they would actually be P2 or P3. But this is live compared to the previous cars that went at this point. You get an update on every flag around the track. So the predictor's pretty good, but I think they're ahead of where it's showing right now.
Yep, this crucial part for Sarah as she comes up towards the finish. She takes the twins straight up there. We've seen some issues for teams so far today, but no such issue for Price. She comes in, she will slam on the brakes, hugging nicely to the inside of that corner, and she'll limit herself to 30 kilometers per hour into the switch. Job done. Pretty good job. I'd say her first sector on the second run wasn't as strong as it could have been. She did an absolute blinding first lap. It was good stuff.
It really was. It was a great drive, and then towards the end of that second lap, she just nudged another few tenths off on the run into the switch zone. Kyle Leduc looking very much like Sebastian Loeb was, you know, just cracking his neck and flinging his arms around. It's that nervous energy, the moments before you get in the car, particularly not when you're going to a grid and you're going to sit there for 20 minutes and wait. You're getting in the car and you're going right now. Get in the car and go for it. And you can just, I love that. You know how he's feeling. Great jump from Price on her second lap.
You can hear they were very vocal yesterday when it came to the switch. A lot of American voice just shouting. You can only have one technician with you in the switch zone, but the other team members standing by, one holding a clock, one shouting how much time, which I'm shouting over. I apologise.
No, you heard him say 30 in the background. To watch now for Leduc, going to get the wheel clicked into place. Sarah Price has already got the belt, so I noticed she had released the top of the belt.
Struggling to get that left-hand belt in.
The lap belt is really hard work to get on.
10 seconds.
She just can't get that to hook in. There we go.
It's
Got
in,
it.
in.
Good job. Heavy door goes down. Bucket over the screen. Give themselves maximum visibility. Out of the zone. Pull down. Tighten. Let's get this on.
No, they're behind the 10 seconds. I'm sure of that there. But he has to get all the safety into place. It has to be over the hands device. Belts have to be done. Comms lead has to be in. Well, Kyle Leduc goes out now with one job to do, get that car as high up the timesheets as he possibly can. Teammate Sarah Price did such a good job to bring the car in that position. Did they lose any time? We need to wait until we get a sector update. He's on the yeah, they did. They lost about 4 seconds there, Jenny, looking at it. With 6 down, so 10 back.
Oh, no. It's all gone wrong again. He's taken too much angle, gone into the bush. He's managed to get it back on track, but once again, I think Leduc is rattled. I don't think the switch went well, and now driving a little bit messy. Steering's the problem.
The wheel. Steering, that's the first time this weekend, if that's the case. You saw him point at the wheel on the onboard, so that's his way of signalling immediately to the team there's a problem with the steering. So as he's gone into that first corner, he's used the handbrake. Look at it, you can see him having to wrestle the wheel already. Why do these guys get all the bad luck? Kyle Leduc is hanging on to that car as best he can, but 7 seconds lost already with that off in the first corner. Nightmare.
Oh, this is going to be a tough 3 kilometres. It's a short track this weekend, the shortest track that we've been to by some considerable way. That's why this first driver does 2 laps, but he is not going to find this a comfortable ride, and he is losing time all over the shop. This is absolute disaster once again for Leduc and Price. What can he do just to wrestle the car around?
But you can see there, Jenny, when the car goes sideways, it's so much harder for Leduc to pull it back because he has to wind the lock on quickly to try and hold on to it. This is really hard work for Kyle Leduc, and I'm so sorry for the team. I really am. I don't know what they've got to do. Do they need some lucky dice in the car? Like, have we got to get it exercised or something? You know, what have we got to do?
New paint job for next year. Just get it changed. I mean, Sarah's looking on, and it's heartbreaking for her. Hyperdrive is deployed, but you can just see the movement that Kyle is putting in. What can he do? Wrestling this beast over a 5.5 metre jump when your power steering's not there.
I'm speechless, which is rare.
Actually, it's a first.
Yeah, like, this is the 18th of 18 runs in qualifying. And yeah, hats off to Spark. The modifications to the car have been brilliant. You know, we've seen everybody finish with really competitive times. It's one of the reasons it's been so close this weekend. But we were just saying, if there's a problem, they get it. Look at him gritting his teeth. He is wrestling it, properly wrestling it. But you know what? We're still going to see, if they end up in the crazy race, you know they'll get that car fixed up for it.
Box office, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll have to go for it in that crazy, and they are going to end up in the crazy race, I think, looking at the times now where they are.
At least there's a route back for them now.
Yes, P9. Oh, look.
Right, let's have a look at what happened to Leduc, because this is the moment where it goes wrong for him. So it just swings round.
He jumps on the gas, Jenny, but if the steering's broken at that point and he's not ready for it, he can't then... So what you do is you get into the corner, you get on the gas now, you then feed the opposite lock-on with the... Do you see? Yeah, you see. He reaches, he immediately has to reach one hand over hand. You don't do that as a race driver. It's fixed input either side, so he's had to react because he can't muscle the car with his hands either side of the wheel.
Just trying to listen to Kyle to see what he's saying. I mean, that was an epic performance. Yes, the time wasn't great, but what he had to do in that car to wrestle it round, hats off. So just have a look at the qualifying points. Finalised now, X44, your top qualifiers for the whole of the championship.
5 times out of 5. Absolutely incredible job by them, Jenny, but they've got to do it tomorrow. And remember, RXR in P2, Christopherson got that Continental Traction Challenge, and at the minute takes those extra 5 points. So they've got to have a better day for tomorrow. Acciona Sainz in P3.
Well, let's go on board with X44 and Sebastian Loeb. You can see the dedication he is putting into this. Wanted to try and get that fastest lap and the super sector when it came to the Continental Traction Challenge.
Yeah, indeed. You saw him reach down and just nab the handbrake in turn 1. Just a couple of little pulls on it to try to get it turned in. But reaching up there to his crash helmet as well, just to adjust it, maybe to lift it up with some of the bumps.
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive, actually. The helmet really does come forward at times and shake around. Even if it's a custom-made helmet like Loeb would have, you can feel it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's well, when you get clattered around this hard, you definitely need it done up nice and tight. Look at the opposite lock that's needed in there, and that's why, of course, should you lose your power steering, you can't go quick on a course like this, because the commitment that's required needs very quick steering inputs. Look how often Loeb's steering inputs are, even when they're going in a straight line. So he comes here through the muddy section. Look, we felt he ran a bit wide here, so he's got a lot of lock on it, then back the other way. Look at that, 3, 4 times on the opposite lock, just to get the car through that muddy section. For me, Jenny, I think it was already gone by that point, the traction challenge. I don't think he was going to be able to get close enough to Christopherson's time.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. And it's fascinating just watching the way that Loeb drives for such an experienced driver. You know, you could just learn so much looking at a 9 times World Rally champion and how they do this, of how they control the car, of the inputs. Once again, a little movement to the helmet, coming up to the knife edge. So this going right over to the left, and actually we've seen them going really far to the left every time they've done it.
He lands on the left side again, but he was crossed up, a bit like Gutierrez was earlier on today. He was crossed up on the run up the jump, so a couple of little mistakes. The thing is, when you've got the likes of Loeb and Christopherson going up against each other, one little mistake is enough to make the difference, particularly when it's only Christopherson's time to there at 51.940. We're talking tenths. He only took it by a couple of tenths off, I think it was Kevin Hansen who held it before for JBXE, and then Ekstrom took it, didn't he, this morning? So it only changes hands by a couple of tenths. You can't even make a tiny mistake.
Yeah. I don't think Loeb likes to use too much of the handbrake. We've seen a lot of different comparisons, but a really lovely lap from Loeb. Impressive stuff.
Coming back into the switch zone in the X44. Pretty relaxed, I think, but won't be quite so relaxed tomorrow. And of course, with the end of qualifying and knowing that RXR have had a good day, they really honestly needed RXR to have a bad day to close that gap down. So at the minute, RXR are holding on.
Yeah, they certainly didn't have a bad day, but X44, 5 times now, they have been fastest in qualifying. So impressive on a Saturday. They need to make it work for them on a Sunday. There's still a chance, but my word, they are going to have to push to win this championship. Well, let's take a look then at how the semis line up. Semi-final 1, it's X44 versus JBXE and Veloce. Tough semi-final.
I don't think it's quite as tough as Semi 2, where RXR are up against Acciona Sainz and Abt Cooper, and that, of course, is our 2 title rivals. They both need to go through to the final to make that fight go right the way to the end of the season.
Yep, set up to be a thrilling semi-final battle with the crazy race as well. One person going through from that. And then let's have a look at the championship standings as they stand. It's 140 points to our leaders, Rosberg X Racing, 125 to X44.
Only then 1 point between JBXE and Andretti United, but Andretti United are down in that crazy race, so they have to try and go through.
Yeah, so many people will try and get through on that. And I tell you what, that battle for the lead, 15 points the difference, Andrew.
Well, Extreme E, of course, combines great racing on track action with a mission to leave a lasting legacy wherever we go in the world. Here in the UK, the National Trust are working to try and restore biodiversity.
Extreme E's legacy projects focus on critical issues in every race location, with the goal to leave a lasting difference. With global natural habitats reducing due to agricultural and human impact, restoring these has never been more important.
So what we need to do now is we need to preserve what we've got, because these are very special and unique habitats. But we also need to be thinking about restoring and valuing other locations. So here in Dorset, they've gone from an area that was quite fragmented to being able to restore habitat and connecting those fragmented areas, which in itself has had a magnitude benefit for this area and for those communities that are now connected.
The Jurassic X Prix Legacy Project, working alongside the National Trust, has set out to reintroduce the beaver to the local habitat.
So there's many reasons why we'd want to reintroduce beavers. They're fabulous creatures because they're one of the few animals that actually adapt their habitats to suit their needs. We've lost almost 90% of the wetlands in the UK in just recent years. It's important to try to bring those wetland habitats back in order to give these other creatures somewhere to live.
When they get here, they'll be swimming up and they'll be moving into these areas, and the beavers will be digging channels and so on to live there. But the lodges that the beavers live in, they'll do it themselves in time, but what we want to do is essentially give them a helping hand for when they first arrive by creating a couple of artificial beaver lodges that will kind of ease their arrival when they first come.
It's got an entrance near the water because apparently they burrow under the water to get in, and then it has to have a roof on it, so we've built that out of some iron and then some twigs on top. So this is where they'll come in their first few days to sleep, and then they'll obviously go out and explore and build their own nest.
Well, it's really nice to come down here and do something a bit different in the mud and getting a bit dirty and really helping out, seeing a difference, then and really come here and build something for the community that will live here.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I think one of the things we've suffered from over the last sort of 30, 40, 50 years is nature conservation has been seen as something that conservationists do, something that ecologists do. And I think we're all recognising now that the ecological emergency, the climate emergency is everybody's emergency. And it's absolutely fundamentally important that when we're doing these really exciting initiatives here, they're not just National Trust projects, they're projects that everybody is part of and gets involved in, and that includes all the people involved in the Extreme E. Absolutely, this is everybody's planet, and we're all essentially needing to work together to try and do something about it.
Well, it's not just the teams and the drivers, of course, who've been doing their bit for the environment. They have been asking their fans also to take part by joining in with the Extreme E Count Us In Challenge, where they can make some changes just to make a little bit of a difference.
The Extreme E Count Us In Challenge sees fans and drivers making positive changes to their everyday lives by taking a Count Us In step. Each of the 16 individual steps consists of greener life choices for the greater good of the planet, including flying less, switching to green energy suppliers, and eating seasonal foods.
I'm committed to using less plastic.
I'm going to drive electric.
I'm going to walk and cycle more.
Or maybe skating.
By taking a step and pledging it to a team, the Extreme E fan community is making an active change for the good of the planet as teams compete to be top of the leaderboard come the end of the season.
And here is that leaderboard as we get to event number 5. X44 lead the Count Us In Challenge from JBXE and Rosberg X Racing. So I think our F1 friends, they're flexing their fan muscles to make sure they get the most votes. But you know what? It doesn't matter who wins this one. We all win if everybody puts a little bit of effort into it.
Well, tell you what, one man who's hoping to win this weekend is Carl Leduc and the Chip Ganassi Segi TV team. Beset by bad luck, they so need their luck to change this weekend, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna.
Kyle, The switch zone looked uncomfortable. What happened there? And then you seem to be pointing towards the steering. And then was that the issues that led to the first corner problem?
Yeah, on the switch, I just forgot to take her seat pad out, so it put me about three inches further forward, and that just made the belts almost unlatchable. So I had a mistake with the Hans on this side, so I wanted to take the time and not the penalty to get that up and set and head out. Started great, went through turn 1 fine. Headed down to turn 2 under heavy braking and hard input, no power steering whatsoever. So kind of got a handle on it, tried to figure out what to do. And obviously I can't take your hand off really to talk on a radio with that no power steering. So just pointed to the crew so that they would know what I'm dealing with. And yeah, thought about a couple options to do a hard reset quickly and stuff like that, but I could smell hydraulic fluid in the truck. So it something in the hydraulic system let go. So just a bummer. Tried to bullfight it around to at least get us out of the crazy race, but yet again, we are in it.
Well, they are in it, aren't they? Interesting that he said hydraulic fluid as well, so that's a mechanical failure rather than anything electronic. They've got a big fight on their hands, but so have these guys. Qualifying results, our top 2 in their championship in there. X44 taking their 5th TQ of the year, all 5 rounds, and RXR in P2. Actually, on the site's doing a brilliant job in P3. Going to be some tough racing. This is the closest weekend we've seen.
And the championship standings, you can see RXR leading the way. The gap between them and X44, 15 points, but can they claw that back? The race action starts tomorrow, and it's all going to be on them to catch RXR, to put pressure on them, to try and find a way to win the title.
Amazing action so far this weekend. Qualifying over and done with now. It's the end of Q2. Jamie Chadwick standing the car on the nose, sideways in the mud, big jumps, full send, maximum attack. We've got just 1 day left to go, semi-finals and final. Oh, who do you think is going to take the win here? Who do you think is going to take the first ever Extreme E Championship? Do not miss out. We will see you for more action tomorrow.
Attack this lap.
Check the flag, check the flag.